Hey, tea sippers, come on in. Come on in. Hey, tea sippers, come on in. Let's talk about it. They are having, or they're reviewing the deposition from Lex Wexner. Hey, Cynthia. Jeffrey Epstein's do boy, money boy, however you want to say it. So let's jump right on in. Hey, Janet, how you doing? Let's come on in and hear what they're saying about what information he gave off, how the meeting is going. They went to, was it Connecticut? I think it's Connecticut. To meet with the old cat, the old what, they were buddies. He signed over everything. So I'm good, and you, Auntie Fee, how's your knee? My knee is better. It's still not 100. It's still a little heavy. It's still a little off balance when I walk, and if I try to lift it, I can feel it. But overall, I'm happy. I'm pleased. It's getting better. How's the Uncle Ben's for you? Is it working? Come on in, y'all. Let's chime into it. Come in, hitting the like button. Again, come in, hitting the like button. Okay? I'm finna mosey on over to the conference. I think it's a little trifling what's going on right now, but let's listen to it. Let's listen.
Reporting. They spent a lot of time together. Mr. Wexner admitted that he traveled to both Epstein's Island as well as. We should be very clear that the two were very close for reporting. They spent a lot of time together. Mr. Wexner admitted that he traveled to both Epstein's Island as well as his other properties. Mr. Wexner also admitted that Jeffrey Epstein had access to a lot of Mr. Wexner's wealth. And when asked even simple questions, even as it relates to Mr. Epstein being the co-president of the foundation that established the area that we're in today, Mr. Wexner had little to say. In fact, it's clear that Mr. Wexner is trying to downplay how close Jeffrey Epstein and Mr.
They are. They really are.
And we should be very clear that there would be no Epstein Island, there would be no Epstein claim, there would be no money to traffic women and girls. Mr. Epstein would not be the wealthy man he was without the support of Les Wexner. It's very important for us to note at this moment. There's a significant amount of questioning that has gone on, but I want to say one other thing and then I'm going to turn it over. We are committed to ending this cover-up. Right now, as we speak, over 50% of the Epstein files have not been released.
Over 50%.
To the Congress. Donald Trump and Ken Bondi are leading a White House cover-up to protect billionaire, wealthy benefactors, whether it's Mr. Wexner, whether it's anybody else.
And the president.
And that has to end now. Which is why we're here and why we're willing to go anywhere and to speak to anyone with information about Jeffrey Epstein's horrific crimes. So we have a lot of questions for Mr. Wexner, and we look forward to sharing those with all of you as well today. So with that, let me turn this over to Congressman Steve Wexner.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for your leadership. It's important to remember that
Hey, Naturally Norlas. Hey,
All
Monty.
the evidence, the documentary evidence that we've received so far, much of it points to this witness and Les Wexner's involvement. As Robert has laid out, the financial wherewithal for Epstein to operate in New York City, to operate in
I've been
Florida,
missing y'all.
Virgin Islands, the ability to travel, and in some cases his own credibility. There was a period there where Epstein was saying that he was closely involved with Wexner's operation, several of his Victoria's Secret, that he was involved in that process as well. So in a very real way, Les Wexner gave Epstein credibility and gave him the ability to commit some of the crimes that he did. One of the witnesses, one of the victims, the survivors, has already indicated that she
Come on.
followed the money. And
Follow the money.
much of that evidence and all of that money leads us to this location. During so far, and
Oh,
I'm
okay,
just speaking
good.
generally, the more this deposition goes on, the less Wexner knows about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. There was a deep trust between these two men. There was a deep friendship there. Not only in a business sense, but Les Wexner gave Epstein the ability to handle his children's and his family's money. So at least that part of it makes it hard to believe Les Wexner's testimony thus far. It may be a question as to whether Les Wexner was involved in the crimes directly.
Thank you,
There's no
Mrs.
question in
Tom.
my mind, given the evidence so far, that Les Wexner knew about this and failed to stop it and gave Epstein license and the ability to commit these crimes.
We've done something that the Department of Justice has failed to do. We have actually sat down and listened, not once, not twice, but on multiple occasions to the survivors. As you saw last week, A.G. Bondi wouldn't even turn and look at the survivors, let alone allow her DOJ to do their job, which is to investigate. So here we are as the legislative branch doing our jobs and trying to do oversight. Let me tell you, the survivors have said over and over and over, follow the money. That was the one thing that they told us, as well as their attorneys. Follow the money. Well, we're following the money. But I'm going to be perfectly honest with you and tell you that we are running into dead ends at this moment. On yesterday, I was asked about this particular deposition and what I anticipated I would hear. As a trained attorney and litigator, once they told me he wasn't taking the fifth, I thought that the record would be full of I don't remembers. I will tell you that once this record comes out, you will see that you most likely will be left with more questions than answers. It is almost inconceivable to be missing the amounts of money that are missing, and somehow Mr. Wexner have no idea. The other thing that I want you to pay attention to, because again, as a trained litigator, think about some of the themes that we keep hearing. We know that there were supposedly these fraudulent modeling agencies that were set up all over the country, and girls would go in thinking that they were going to get their chance at modeling. Victoria's Secret. We know Victoria's Secret was known specifically for their fashion shows. We know that there are reports of girls that went in thinking that they were potentially going in to model. These are not coincidences. There's two things that have been clear. Is that there were always young girls seemingly looking for an opportunity to model.
Right.
There were always rich and powerful people on the other side. Dang dangling a carrot, saying, I will give you the life that you're seeking. Yet ultimately, the stories are the same. They're stories of abuse. They're stories of trafficking at the highest level. And I will tell you one thing that was remembered for sure was when asked about Donald Trump and Epstein, whether or not they had been in the same.
Let's go. Hit the like button, y'all.
What that looked like. He didn't quite remember, but he imagined that yes, that possibly happened. Because he did remember that Donald Trump also would like to show up to the Victoria's Secret runway show. Now, that was a little odd to him, he said, because Donald Trump was not engaged in fashion whatsoever. But he does recall that. He also said something that I feel like we've heard over and over and over, which is that Epstein liked to drop people's names. So he'd imagined that that may have been one of the names that he dropped. Listen, I want the American people, but more specifically, I want the survivors and anyone who is struggling right now
Let's
to
go.
know that we see you, we feel you, and we are fighting for you. We will not stop. If Mr. Wexner is honest about his intentions in helping us, then we're asking him, if he doesn't remember, then go ahead and turn over all of your financial records. Because we need to follow the money.
Right.
Because that is exactly what the survivors told us to do. And we know that the Department of Justice is either inadequate or just not interested in doing justice as relates to this particular scenario. We in America deserve better. We are looking around the country and we're seeing CEOs that are having to leave their own companies. We're seeing people that are having to leave their board positions.
Right.
We're seeing princes being dethroned. We're seeing all kinds of stuff.
I don't know how
except
Texas
for
compares, Shabbat.
right here at the highest levels of federal government. Whether we're talking about Donald Trump himself or whether we're talking about Secretary Lutnick, and the list goes on. We deserve better in this country, and we will get it.
Amen.
Good morning. Over the course of the last year, the American public has been witnessing what I can only call the most egregious cover-up in American history. And today was a critical part of our investigation to try to end this cover-up once and for all. We have met with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the rich and powerful people that helped to perpetuate these crimes. And we have heard over and over from these victims the name of Les Wexner and the importance of following them up. Because the story of Jeffrey Epstein is one that can almost, it almost is the plot of a movie that is turned into a nightmare. And the real reason Jeffrey Epstein was able to get away with raping and abusing children, young women, boys, young men for so many years
Thank you.
because of the vast amounts of money that he was able to acquire, and that largely came from Les Wexner here in Ohio. So we're here to ask Les Wexner the critical question.
Vocal
It's
Crockett.
very interesting to see
Absolutely.
the types of responses that he's giving and his demeanor throughout.
Working and listening. Okay, ladies.
Provide information and to be helpful in the investigation, but then quickly follows up by saying that he does not recall details around a relationship with somebody that he had for decades. Les Wexner handed his power of attorney to Jeffrey Epstein. He allowed
Thank you, Monty.
Jeffrey Epstein to live in his home, to have hundreds of millions
Thank you,
of
Janet.
dollars, to use his yachts and his planes. This was
Thank you,
obviously
Naturally
a
Nolans.
very, very close relationship, and so far what we have seen is a denial of that relationship. Another important
Thank you, Mrs. Toms.
come up today
Mrs.
is
Tom.
that Les Wexner is actually tied to other sex trafficking and child abuse scandals here in Ohio, around the country. There are reports of payments that were made to a gynecologist at Ohio State University, and that money went through Jeffrey Epstein, but came from Les Wexner. And he has been asked about this with no real response, no recollection. And again, as my colleagues have said, I don't think it is feasible or understandable or conceivable that any individual would not have an understanding of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of their own money and can't answer those questions. So it is clear that this cover-up is vast. It goes as high as the White House and the Department of Justice that still has not released the majority of the Epstein files, still has illegally redacted information, still has not begun any indictments or prosecutions for the very credible allegations that are in the files that we already have seen, all the way to people at universities, companies, and vast networks of elite individuals across this country. And what I can tell you very clearly is that oversight Democrats on this committee will not back down until we get every detail, until every person who enabled and perpetrated these crimes is held accountable. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Dave Mann, freshman member of Congress out of Orange County, California, and before getting into office, I was a law professor. I'm a graduate of Harvard Law School, and earlier in my career, I was an SEC enforcement attorney, so I've done quite a few of these types of depositions and witness interviews. And while I don't want to comment on an ongoing deposition, we're going to go back in there and ask more questions, I can basically say that he has basically alleged that he saw no evil, heard no evil, despite being in the room with Jeffrey Epstein over and over and over. And it's really just not credible. I realize he's an elderly gentleman, memories fade, but the reputation of Jeffrey Epstein is very clear. Everyone around Jeffrey Epstein knew exactly what he's up to. And to spend that much time, to give that much trust to Jeffrey Epstein, and then to say, I don't remember seeing any young girls. I didn't hear anything about Jeffrey Epstein.
He lying.
It really is just not plausible. And so we're going to keep digging, but I want to just echo the comments earlier. This is a bit frustrating because we're not getting real answers to the questions that the American people deserve answers to. I also just want to give kudos to my colleagues behind me right here. Robert Garcia and the Democrats on the Oversight Committee have led the effort to try to expose this cover-up. What we've seen is foot dragging. We've seen, if you remember back to Pam Bondi saying that this was all a hoax and a cover-up, that there were no Epstein files. Due to the efforts of Ranking Member Garcia, we have been able to pierce that myth. We're getting more answers, but we've got a lot of work to do. And we'll just add, it is very frustrating the fact that there are no Republicans here today. I wish there were Republicans because sex trafficking should not be a D versus R issue. It should be a bipartisan issue. Everybody should be invested in finding the truth right now. And the fact that we've had so little cooperation from the Republicans on the House Oversight Committee, that the DOJ has actively tried to obstruct this investigation, that is shameful, and it will go down as a permanent mark on the records of people like Pam Bondi and Donald Trump. Now, I'll just close with this. When I got off the plane, I saw Wexner's name all over the place. His name is on buildings, it's on medical centers, and you immediately realize when you come to Columbus what a powerful individual this is. But I just want to say that no matter how rich or powerful you are, America stands for the principle that there's one rule of law that applies to anybody and everybody equally. And so whether Wexner is rich and powerful, whether Jeffrey Epstein or Donald Trump or Howard Lutnick are rich and powerful, should not matter. We're going to get the answers. People will be brought to justice.
Good old
People will
boy
not rest
freaks.
until that happens. Thanks.
And before I answer a couple questions, let me add two things that are really important. One is, it's been clear to us, at least the way Mr. Wexner has presented this, that he, according to him, has not been questioned by the FBI or the DOJ about Mr. Epstein. How outrageous is that? He's someone that's been named by survivors, someone that's in the files more than most people, someone that's clearly the financial benefactor to Jeffrey Epstein and has not been contacted or interviewed by the FBI or the DOJ. What the hell is going on? That is shameful. We should be ashamed as a government. The survivors deserve justice. So that's something that we are going to continue to press today, and certainly press with Pam Bondi and the DOJ. And the second thing, something that I think is critical to all of us, I think this community should also be asking questions. This community deserves to know why the most powerful man, one of the richest men, if not the richest man in Ohio, gave so much of his wealth to the largest modern sex trafficking ring in American history. Why his money was used to traffic, abuse, and rape women and children. And so I think this community has questions of Mr. Wexner. Ohio State should have questions of Mr. Wexner. And Mr. Wexner's involvement in our questions, today's not the end of our questions for Mr. Wexner, it's the beginning of our questions for Mr. Wexner and anyone in this community across Ohio or the country that has done business dealing or that knows why he provided so much money for Jeffrey Epstein to then go on and commit all these horrible crimes. We can answer a couple questions.
How often does he take?
Be a bipartisan issue. Everybody should be invested in finding the truth right now. And the fact that we've had so little cooperation from the Republicans on the House Oversight Committee, that the DOJ has actively tried to obstruct this investigation, that is shameful, and it will go down as a permanent mark on the records of people like Pam Bondi and Donald Trump. Now, I'll just close with this. When I got off the plane, I saw Wexner's name all over the place. His name is on buildings, it's on medical centers, and you immediately realize when you come to Columbus what a powerful individual this is. But I just want to say that no matter how rich or powerful you are, America stands for the principle that there's one rule of law that applies to anybody and everybody equally. And so whether Wexner is rich and powerful, whether Jeffrey Epstein or Donald Trump or Howard Lutnick are rich and powerful, should not matter. We're going to get the answers. People will be brought to justice. We will not rest until that happens. Thank you.
And before I answer a couple questions, let me add two things that are really important. One is, it's been clear to us, at least the way Mr. Wexner has presented this, that he, according to him, has not been questioned by the FBI or the DOJ.
FBI has failed us.
How outrageous is that? He's someone that's been named by survivors, someone that's in the files more than most people, someone that's clearly the financial benefactor to Jeffrey Epstein and has not been contacted or interviewed by the FBI or the DOJ? What the hell is going on? That is shameful. We should be ashamed as a government. The survivors deserve justice.
Absolutely.
So that's something that we are going to continue to press today, and certainly press with Pam Bondi and the DOJ. And the second thing, something that I think is critical to all of us, I think this community should also be asking questions. This community deserves to know why
Every
the most
agency
powerful
has
man, or
absolutely.
the richest man, if not the richest man in Ohio, gave so much of his wealth to the largest modern sex trafficking ring in American history. Why his money was used to traffic, abuse, and rape women and children. And so I think this community has questions
Call
of Mr.
Garcia and
Wexner.
Crockett office just to thank them.
Ohio State should have questions of Mr. Wexner.
Everybody
And Mr.
is
Wexner's
just
involvement
freaking
in our
on
questions,
with each other.
today's not the end
Yep,
of our questions
FBA.
for Mr. Wexner. It's the beginning of our questions for Mr. Wexner and anyone in this community across Ohio or the country that has done business dealing or that knows why he provided so much money for Jeffrey Epstein to then go on and commit all these horrible crimes. We can answer a couple questions.
How often does he take?
Thank you, Be Rich.
Let me start by saying that I do not believe when Mr. Wexner says that he did not have a personal relationship or a friendly relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh yeah, that's a lie. They were big time friendly with one
And I
another.
think
Booty
I can
buddies
also say
almost,
that
right?
he believed the survivors. And I think the former testimony is critical. And what happened to not just Maria, but to Annie and the former women was horrific. And this idea that she gave such a description of what happened to her, and somehow we should just dismiss that as a lie or untrue, I think is outrageous. There's no question in my mind that there was a relationship and that Mr. Wexner is very aware, likely aware of what was going on.
Representative Garcia.
There have been questions that have been asked about the farmer incident, and that will continue in the afternoon. Yes.
Tom Bosco with the ABC affiliate here in Columbus. Can you give us a little more of the flavor of the questioning? Is he combative with the questions? Is there a lot of conferring with attorneys before he answers? And you said he has not pleaded the Fifth or taken his Fifth Amendment?
He's not pleaded the Fifth. I think that he's answering some questions. He's saying that he doesn't remember, and other questions.
See no evil, hear no evil.
Exactly. He's claiming that there basically was no friendship with Jeffrey Epstein or no real strong relationship, which we know by reporting that's just not true.
As it
It's
relates,
pretty ridiculous.
as it relates to the lawyers specifically, there's a lot of objections.
A lot of objections. Any other questions?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
Les Wexner, he admitted to visiting Epstein Island. What do you know and what has he shared about his activities while on the island and any involvement with survivors there or here at his mansion also?
Yeah, I asked that question today. He claimed that he was on the island for 1 hour and that he
We should
walked
be very
around with
clear.
his family.
Hold on, because the volume is better on this one. Hold
There'd
on.
be no Epstein plan. Well, first of all, thank you all for being here. My name is Robert Garcia. I am the ranking member, the lead Democrat on the Oversight Committee, and I'm here with many of our colleagues from the Oversight Committee. We're all going to make some brief remarks. I'll introduce them all, and then I'll open it up for a couple questions. And then our deposition is continuing, so we've got to continue that throughout the day. So let me just first of all
Also, they're not leaving. They will be back.
Overview. So we
Okay,
are
hold
right
on.
now in the middle of a deposition of Mr. Les Wexner. We are doing the deposition at his estate here. Right now, we are now about 2 hours into that deposition. We are on a break.
Is that better
and we will
for
be going
volume?
back into the deposition for the rest of the afternoon.
Can
so
you
to
hear
be very
better?
clear, we'll be providing an update now, but there are many, many questions that we have to ask of Mr. Wexner that are important to our investigation, and so that questioning will happen
Benzino resigned on
throughout
December
the day
19th.
as this day moves forward. We're here
They've
because
lost a lot of
we
people.
want to talk to anyone that has information about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's crime, abuse, and
Okay.
trafficking
Yep.
of women
Send
and
out.
girls. There is no single person
It's every public
that was more involved in
document
providing
needs to
Jeffrey
work.
Epstein with the financial support to commit his crimes than Les Wexner. That is already, as we all know, in the public record. We've also directly heard from survivors about Mr. Wexner, about his involvement, and their concerns as to the enormous amount of money that was essentially transferred over and paid to by Mr. Epstein. To be very clear, we know of approximately over $1 billion, it looks like. It's about $1 billion that was either transferred, provided in stocks, or given directly to Mr. Epstein by Wexner. Now, it's important to note that Mr. Wexner appears to be unaware of much of the money, as he claims, that was given over to Mr. Epstein. In fact, it's interesting that Mr. Wexner has already begun to clarify in his
Thank
mind
you.
that somehow he and Mr. Epstein weren't even friends. We should be very clear that the two
Yay,
were
we reached
very
the goal.
close per reporting. They
Yay,
spent a
we
lot of
reached the
time together.
goal.
Mr. Wexner admitted that he traveled to both Epstein's island as well as his other properties. Mr. Wexner also admitted that Jeffrey Epstein had access to a lot of Mr. Wexner's wealth. And when asked even simple questions, even as it relates to Mr. Epstein being the co-president of the foundation that established the area that we're in
Kelly's
today,
was on DVD.
Mr. Wexner had little to say.
You think there's
In
some
fact, it's clear
tapes,
that
FDA?
Mr. Wexner is trying to downplay
Oh yeah,
how
we've
close
seen all those.
Jeffrey Epstein
Yeah,
and
it's
Mr.
on
And
tape.
Mr. Wexner actually were. And we should be very clear that there would be no Epstein Island, there'd be no Epstein plane, there'd be no money to traffic women and girls. Mr. Epstein would not be the wealthy man he was
Oh yeah.
without the support
R. Kelly was
of Les
horrible.
Wexner. I think it's very important for us to note at this moment. There's a significant amount of questioning that has gone on, but I want to say one other thing and then I'm going to turn it over. We are committed to ending this cover-up. Right now, as we speak, over 50% of the Epstein files have not been released to the public and to the Congress. Donald Trump and Pam Bondi are leading a White House cover-up to protect billionaire, wealthy benefactors, whether it's Mr. Wexner or whether it's anybody else. And that has to end now, which is why we're here and why we're willing to go anywhere and to speak to anyone with information about Jeffrey Epstein's horrific crimes. And so we have a lot of questions for Mr. Wexner, and we look forward to sharing those
Well, I'm glad to
with
know
all of you
that
as well
it's
today.
not
So with
over.
that,
They're
let me
going
turn
to
this
be
over
asking them
to
questions
Congressman
all
Steve
day.
Lynch.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for your leadership. It's important to remember that all the evidence, the documentary evidence that we've received so far, much of it points to this witness and Les Wexner's involvement. As Robert has laid out, the financial wherewithal for Epstein to operate in New York City, to operate in Florida, the Virgin Islands, the ability to travel, and in some cases his own credibility. There was a period there where Epstein was saying that he was closely involved with Wexner's operation, several of his Victoria's Secret, that he was involved in that process as well. So in a very real way, Les Wexner gave Epstein credibility. Mm-hmm. He gave him the ability to commit some of the crimes
like
that
he was
did.
rich.
One of the witnesses, one of the victims, the survivors, has already indicated that she was assaulted at this facility, at the mansion here.
Oh,
Wexner's
wow.
home here. That she was refused permission to leave that house.
Oh, wow.
Until security had cleared that she was kept there for several hours. So in an investigation, you usually follow the documents.
She was
follow the money.
Auntie.
And
A-U-N-T-Y or
and all of that money
A-U-N-T-I-E.
leads us to this location.
I'm the Annie with the T.
So far, and I'm just speaking generally, the more this deposition goes on, the less Wexner knows about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. There was a deep trust between these two men. There was a deep friendship there. Not only in a business sense, but Les Wexner gave Epstein the ability to handle his children's and his family's money. So at least that part of it makes it hard to believe Les Wexner's testimony thus far. It may be a question as to whether Les Wexner was involved in the crimes directly, but there is no question in my mind, given the evidence so far, that Les Wexner knew about this and failed to stop it.
And he was enjoying it.
Epstein license and the ability to commit these crimes. And I'll yield.
We've done something that the Department of Justice has failed to do. We have actually sat down and listened, not once, not twice, but on multiple.
The worst freaking state to live in right now is Missouri, and nobody's talking about it.
Actually sat down and listened, not once, not twice, but on multiple occasions to the survivors. As you saw last week, AG Bondi wouldn't even turn and look at the survivors, let alone allow her DOJ to do their job, which is to investigate.
Oh, I hope you
so
feel
here
better.
we are as the legislative branch doing our jobs and trying to do oversight. Let me tell you, the survivors have said over and over and over, follow the money. That was the one thing that they told us, as well as their attorneys. Follow the money. Well, we're following the money. But I'm going to be perfectly honest with you and tell you that we are running into dead ends at this moment. On yesterday, I was asked about this particular deposition and what I anticipated I would hear. As a trained attorney and litigator,
FBA,
once
that's
they
me
told me he
in the
wasn't
back.
taking the fifth, I thought that the record would be full of I don't
Airport
remember.
airplanes, people are
I will
gross.
tell you that once this
Yep.
record comes out, you will see that you most likely will be left with more questions than answers. It is almost inconceivable to be missing the amounts of money that are missing, and somehow Mr. Wexner have no idea. The other thing that I want you to pay attention to, because again, as a trained litigator, think about some of the things that we keep hearing. We know
Just
that there were
another
supposedly
survivor.
these fraudulent modeling agencies that were set up all over the country. And girls would go in thinking that they were going to get their chance at modeling. Victoria's Secret. We know Victoria's Secret was known specifically for their fashion shows. We know that there are reports of girls that went in thinking that they were potentially going in to model. These are not coincidences.
Hey, Samantha.
There's two things that have been
Yes,
clear.
praying for
Is
you,
that there were
Mrs.
always
Tom.
young girls seemingly looking for an opportunity to model, and there were always rich and powerful people on the other side, dangling a carrot, saying, I will give you the life that you're seeking. Yet ultimately, the stories are the same. They're stories of abuse. They're stories of trafficking at the highest level. And I will tell you one thing that was remembered for sure was when asked about Donald Trump and Epstein and whether or not they had been in the same room and what that looked like. He didn't quite remember, but he imagined that yes, that possibly happened, because he did remember that Donald Trump also would like to show up to the Victoria's Secret runway shows. Now, that was a little odd to him, he said, because Donald Trump was not engaged in fashion whatsoever.
Well, he was involved.
But he does
He
recall
liked the
that.
bras and panties.
He also said something that I feel like we've heard over and over and over, which is that Epstein liked to drop people's names. So he'd imagine that that may have been one of the names that he dropped. Listen, I want the American people, but more specifically, I want the survivors and anyone who is struggling right now to know that we see you, we feel you, and we are fighting for you. We will not stop. If Mr. Wexner is honest about his intentions in helping us, then we're asking him, if he doesn't remember, then go ahead and turn over all of your financial records, because we need to follow the money, because that is exactly what the survivors told us to do. And we know that the Department of Justice is either inadequate or just not interested
Intentionally
in doing
avoiding.
justice as it relates to this particular scenario. We in America deserve better. We are looking around the country and we're seeing CEOs that are having to leave their own companies. We're seeing people that are having to leave their board positions. We're seeing princes being dethroned. We're seeing all kinds of stuff everywhere except for right here at the highest levels of federal government. Whether we're talking about Donald Trump himself or whether we're talking about Secretary Lutnick, and the list goes on. We deserve better in this country, and we will get it.
One way or another.
Good morning. Over the course of the last year, the American public has been witnessing what I can only call the most egregious cover-up in American history. And today was a critical part of our investigation to try to end this cover-up once and for all. We have met with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the rich and powerful people that helped to perpetuate these crimes. And we have heard over and over from these victims the name of Les Wexner and the importance of following the money. Because the story of Jeffrey Epstein is one that can almost, it almost is the plot of a movie that is turned into a nightmare. And the real reason Jeffrey Epstein was able to get away with raping and abusing children, young women, boys, young men for so many years was because of the vast amounts of money that he was able to acquire, and that largely came from Les Wexner here in Ohio. So we're here to ask Les Wexner the
Ohio
critical
instead of
questions, and it's been very interesting
Cincinnati.
to see the types of responses that he's giving and his demeanor throughout the interview. He claims to want to provide information and to be helpful in the investigation, but then quickly follows up by saying that he does not recall details around a relationship with somebody that he had for decades. Les Wexner handed his power of attorney to Jeffrey Epstein. He allowed Jeffrey Epstein to live in his homes, to have hundreds of millions of his dollars, to use his yachts and his planes. This was obviously a very, very close relationship, and so far what we have seen is a denial of that relationship. Another important theme that has come up today is that Les Wexner is actually tied to other sex trafficking and child abuse scandals here in Ohio, around the country.
Wow.
There are
Ain't no way.
reports of payments that were made to a gynecologist at Ohio State University, and that money went through Jeffrey Epstein but came from Les Wexner. And he has been asked about this with no real response, no recollection. And again, as my colleagues have
Playing
said,
in our face.
I don't think it is feasible or understandable or conceivable that any individual would not have an understanding of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of their own money and can't answer to those questions. So it is clear that this cover-up is vast. It goes as high as the White House and the Department of Justice that still has not released the majority of the Epstein files, still has illegally redacted information, still has not begun any indictments or prosecutions for the very credible allegations that are in the files that we already have seen, all the way to people at universities, in companies, and vast networks of elite individuals across this country. And what I can tell you very clearly is that oversight Democrats on this committee will not back down until we get every detail, until every person who enabled and perpetrated these crimes is held accountable. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Dave Menn, freshman member of Congress out of Orange County, California. And before getting into office, I was a law professor. I'm a graduate of Harvard Law School. And I was a law professor. I'm a graduate of Harvard Law School. And earlier in my career, I was an SEC enforcement attorney. So I've done quite a few of these types of depositions and witness interviews. And while I don't want to comment on an ongoing deposition, we're going to go back in there and ask more questions. I can basically say that he has basically alleged that he saw no evil, heard no evil, despite being in the room with Jeffrey Epstein over and over and over. And it's really just not credible. I realize he's an elderly gentleman, memories fade, but the reputation of Jeffrey Epstein is very clear. Everyone around Jeffrey Epstein knew exactly what he's up to. And to spend that much time, to give that much trust to Jeffrey Epstein, and then to say, I don't remember seeing any young girls. I didn't hear anything about Jeffrey Epstein. It really is just not plausible. And so we're going to keep digging, but I want to just echo the comments earlier. This is a bit frustrating because we're not getting real answers to the questions that the American people deserve answers to. I also just want to give kudos to my colleagues behind me right here. Robert Garcia and the Democrats on the Oversight Committee have led the effort to try to expose this cover-up. What we've seen is foot dragging. We've seen, if you remember back to Pam Bondi saying that this was all a hoax and a cover-up, that there were no Epstein files. Due to the efforts of Ranking Member Garcia, we have been able to pierce that myth. We're getting more answers, but we've got a lot of work to do. And we'll just add, it is very frustrating the fact that there are no Republicans here today. I wish there were Republicans because sex trafficking should not be a D versus R issue. It should be a bipartisan issue. Everybody should be invested in finding the truth right now. And the fact that we've had so little cooperation from the Republicans on the House Oversight Committee, that the DOJ has actively tried to obstruct this investigation, that is shameful, and it will go down as a permanent mark on the records of people like Pam Bondi and Donald Trump. Now, I'll just close with this. When I got off the plane, I saw Wexner's name all over the place. His name is on buildings, it's on medical centers, and you immediately realize when you come to Columbus what a powerful individual this is. But I just want to say that no matter how rich or powerful you are, America stands for the
Absolutely.
principle that there's
2409
one rule of
Janice.
law that applies to anybody and everybody equally. And so whether Wexner is rich and powerful, whether Jeffrey Epstein or Donald Trump or Howard Lutnick are rich and powerful, should not matter. We're going to get the answers. People will be brought to justice. We will not rest until that happens. Thanks.
Thank you. And before I answer a couple questions, let me add two things that are really important. One is, it's been clear to us, at least the way Mr. Wexner has presented this, that he, according to him, has not been was questioned by the FBI or the DOJ about Mr. Epstein. How outrageous is that? He's someone that's been named by survivors, someone that's in the files more than most people, someone that's clearly the financial benefactor to Jeffrey Epstein and has not been contacted or interviewed by the FBI or the DOJ? Yeah. What the hell is going on? That is shameful. We should be ashamed as a government. The survivors deserve justice. And so that's something that we are going to continue to press today, and certainly press with Pam Bondi and the DOJ. And the second thing,
Yep, she in the files.
that I think
We done showed that
critical
picture.
to all of us. I think this community should also be asking questions. This community deserves to know why the most powerful man and one of the richest men, if not the richest man in Ohio, gave so much of his
Yep.
wealth
Janice, we
to
have
the
showed that picture
largest
several
modern
times.
sex trafficking ring in American history. Why his money was used to traffic, abuse, and rape women and children. And so I think this community has questions of Mr. Wexner. Ohio State should have questions of Mr. Wexner. And Mr. Wexner's involvement and our questions, today's not the end of our questions for Mr. Wexner, it's the beginning of our questions for Mr. Wexner and anyone in this community across Ohio or the country that has done business dealings or that knows why he provided so much money for Jeffrey Epstein to then go on and commit all these horrible crimes. We can answer a couple questions.
How often is he taking?
Oh, I think she was groomed probably a long time ago when she was a kid. So she's conditioned now.
Did not have any knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's crime. Do you believe he's lying, given what you know about him to be Epstein's portal? But that's first. Second, in the 2019 affidavit, Maria Farmer said that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell had sexually abused her at Wexner Estate, and that the Wexner security guards wouldn't let her leave. You guys touched on that incident and all during the deposition. And third, what comes next for your investigation?
So let me start by saying that I think I do not believe when Mr. Wexner
She one of
says
them
that he
girls
did not
up
have
there.
a personal relationship or a friendly relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I think that
She
is
resembled more the
bogus.
girl at the bottom. Right.
Personally. I think I can also say that we believe the survivors. And I think the Farmer testimony is critical. And what happened to not just Maria, but to Annie and the Farmer women was horrific. And this idea that she gave such a description of what happened to her, and somehow we should just dismiss that as a lie or untrue, I think is outrageous. There's no question in my mind that there was a relationship and that Mr. Wexner is very aware, and likely aware of what was going on.
Representative Garcia.
There have been questions that have been asked about the Farmer incident, and that will continue in the afternoon. Yes.
Tom Bosco with the ABC affiliate here in Columbus. Can you give
Please hit the like button, y'all. Come on.
questioning? Is he combative?
If it's 51 people in here, I need 55 likes or however many. Come on. Come in, hitting the like button. Support the platform.
He's not pleaded the fifth. I
Like,
think that
share,
he's
and
answering some
subscribe.
questions. He's saying that he doesn't remember, and other questions.
See no evil, hear no evil.
Exactly. He's claiming that there's basically was no friendship with Jeffrey Epstein or no real strong relationship, which we know by reporting that's just not true. It's pretty ridiculous. Do you want to add to that?
As it relates to the lawyers specifically, there's a lot of objections.
A lot of objections. Any other questions? Yes.
Les Wexner, he admitted to visiting Epstein Island, and wouldn't you know that he shared about his activities while on the island and any involvement he might
Yeah, go ahead, Jess.
here at his mansion also?
Yeah, I asked that question today. He claimed that he was on the island for 1 hour and that he walked around with his family. And I asked him if any other individuals were there, and he said no. And that was a kind of a repetitive thing that he said as well when we asked about if he had been to another property. He said, I was there for 1 hour, and I go to many places for just 1 hour.
And did he speak about any involvement with survivors, even here at his mansion in Albany?
No.
He denied everything.
Not everything. And quite frankly, it would have been nice to have seen more remorse. Yes.
Mr. Wexner is 88 years old. He's also been missing Wexner Medical Center board meetings where he's chair. Can you describe his demeanor, how he is? He's an elderly gentleman.
Pretty short, but do you want to add that? It's pretty short.
Well, I think he's lucid. I think he's certainly capable of answering these questions. There's no deterioration in his mental faculties. So he's a competent witness. He's just not telling the truth.
Will, talk about why here in Ohio versus here in D.C.?
Deposition locations are decided by the majority party, and that was decided to have it here.
Will this deposition even matter if Pam Bondi and the DOJ are not taking this as a main focus?
Look, I think that we have, my first answer is yes. This deposition absolutely does matter, and it's important to get. Remember, Mr. Wexner is under oath to tell the truth. So every single answer that he gives is a broader part of our investigation. This is just the beginning of our work with and trying to get the truth on Mr. Wexner, and so that it absolutely matters. Any final questions?
What happens when the DOJ doesn't do anything with it?
Well, that's up to the President Trump, which we're putting the pressure on. Yes. Anybody want to answer that? Credibility issue. Look, I think at the end of the day, we need to ask the questions and get Mr. Wexner on the record. That's the most important part right now. Is we have questions that are going to continue throughout the afternoon and get them on the record. We have time for a couple more questions. We've got to wrap up.
If you feel you're not getting the answers
Go ahead, Jasmine.
today, what should we expect next?
Jasmine.
I'm gonna let you do that when I was on the other.
Yeah, I think what's next is we may have additional questions. We have more people to speak to, folks that are involved with Mr. Wexner and that have done business with him, including the doctor that we just discussed earlier that got transferred a significant amount of money. They can expect questions from us. Absolutely, we're asking for those. Jasmine, do you want to answer the other part of the question?
All right.
Let me let Jasmine. Go ahead, Jasmine.
Representative Garcia, when you said there are no Republicans here, you didn't just mean at this press conference. There are no Republicans
No, there are no Republican members of Congress.
at this deposition.
Yes.
No.
Right. There are Republican staff members, no Republican members of Congress just to come. We'll take one final question.
Wexner was named as a possible beneficiary in a lot of documents. Anything you've seen today makes you think he might not be, or
There's nothing I've heard that
Republicans came to get
no.
answers.
I think that is a very open question.
Wow.
And I think that's a part of the investigation is going to continue. Thanks, everybody.
Wow.
So, according to the University of Delaware, people with an IQ of 115 and above can perform any job
What y'all
without
think?
intellectual restrictions.
Wow.
This means you can handle complex tasks, manage.
Hold on. What do y'all think about House Democrats? Wow. Very telling. Very telling. Let me see what else I got for y'all. Wow.
Trump decided to do what he always does, popped his little head around the door and started talking to the reporters.
Now he don't even
And
know.
as usual, it did not go well for Donald Trump.
Now he don't
One of
even
the
know.
reporters decided to ask him about
Epstein,
Hillary
this
Clinton
is
being
gonna
forced, and Bill Clinton, of course,
keep
to
up the
come
good
in
work.
and
Thank you,
testify in front of
Monty.
Congress about Epstein. And Hillary has, of course, suggested that Trump should do the same thing because, you know,
Now he
he's
don't
in there
even
a little
know.
bit more than we are.
Epstein.
And that's when Donald Trump gave the worst excuse he's ever given about Epstein. Trump came this close to telling us that he's never even met Epstein. He doesn't even know who he is. Because Trump claimed he's had nothing to do with Epstein. Basically
It's a
trying to
crap.
tell us that I don't
Thank you, Mr. Stone.
Who? What's
What,
this
who?
guy? What did he do? Is he a bad guy? I've never even heard of him. Here's how the exchange took place. The reporter says, so Hillary Clinton said in an interview today that she and her husband are getting pulled into the Epstein matter to divert attention from you, and that your administration has something to hide. What's your response? Trump said, I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping they'd find it and
Selective
found just
memory
the opposite.
disorder.
I've been
You right,
totally
Samantha.
exonerated. And in fact, Jeffrey
Elaine
Epstein
is
was
afraid
fighting
for her.
that I
She
don't
done
get
been
elected
moved.
with some
She
author, a
ain't even in
sleazebag,
prison.
by the way. And I've been
That's a
totally
lie.
exonerated.
That
Wow,
picture of
3
her,
times you've
she
said
not there no more.
No, they're getting
They done
getting
slid
pulled
her
in.
out.
That's
Somebody
their
is serving
problem.
her
I
time
don't
for
know.
her.
They're gonna
A
have to see what
lookalike.
happens. But I watched her in Munich, and she
She ain't
seriously
afraid
has
of
Trump
nothing.
derangement syndrome.
She on the island
And
with
the reporter
Epstein.
jumps in and was like, you think
You
that
haven't
she should
seen that picture,
publicly
Janice?
testify? And Trump said,
2409
I've been
Janice.
totally exonerated 4 times now on Epstein. And it's really interesting because they've been pulled in. Think of it. They've been pulled in. So 3 times on the they've been pulled in. Clinton and many other Democrats have been pulled in 4 times on the pulled in. For the record, that is a symptom of dementia. It's not an indicator. It's a symptom of dementia.
Iran has
The
had
constant
Epstein. I got
repetition
it
of
coming.
what it is you
I
are
got it coming,
currently
Monty.
saying because you
That he's
can't
been
think of
the
other
Epstein
words,
files has been
phrases,
hacked.
or ideas.
What
So
you
you
mean,
end up repeating
2409
yourself
Janet?
endlessly.
Which one? What you mean?
As he steadies
one?
himself against a wall because his body is falling apart and he can't stand up on his own. That's why he's always sitting down these days when talking to reporters except aboard the plane. But you have not been totally exonerated. In fact, in that recent dump of Epstein documents, not only are you mentioned tens of thousands of times, and for the record, I've seen a lot of people throw around like he's mentioned 1 million times. No. The official number is 38,000 mentions. Okay. I know that million number sounds good, looks good, makes him look more guilty, but we have to live in reality too. We have to have our facts straight. The official number of Trump mentions is 38,000. Just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. And Trump's name is probably on that page too, to paraphrase Gavin Newsom's office. But anyway, that was Kathy Hochul's office. Also, in the recent release of documents that Trump says totally exonerates him, I said it 4 times, he was actually accused of sexual misconduct. Like, that's the opposite of exoneration. The previous documents didn't implicate you in any criminal activity. This one does. So not only were you not exonerated, like, you were implicated in a crime. Not to mention the other crime that I mentioned a week or so ago, which is failure to report crimes against a minor. So you were implicated in multiple different crimes. But does any of it matter? Trump's not up for re-election. Regardless of what he says, he's not running for a 3rd term in office. He physically won't be able to. Legally, he's not able to. Physically, it ain't going to happen. If things get a little screwy, he'll pardon himself. And then he'll be free to go. Now, if he were to go to another country, they may view things a little differently. Epstein's crimes did, in some instances, of course, hop the border, cross the pond. So maybe if Trump was involved in any of those specifically, he could face justice. I don't think that'll happen. But here in the United States, nothing will ever happen. No political ramifications for Donald Trump, no legal ramifications, no civil ramifications. He'll get away with it. And he knows it, which is why he is able to sit there and lie to our faces and tell us, I have had nothing to do with the man whose birthday card I wrote a poem and a special little drawing, and of course, well, not poem, but a special message, and all the photos together, all the videos of us together. Yeah, I barely even know the guy. That's his lie, and he's sticking to it. Thanks for watching, and
wow.
if you are not already subscribed to the channel, please do so, and do...
We ain't going. Tell him we are not going. That is not going to work. The devil is a lie. Hold on, y'all. Please hit the like button as we go to the next level. I'm 1 hour and 4 seconds in. Please get the likes up. We should already be there. I'll take you there. Take you there. I'll take you there. Oh, and he's losing his people. And he is losing his people. Let's hear this one. I'm going to get there.
Insurance companies don't want you to know this. Homeowners, if your insurance rates keep going up like mine, then you need to follow this loophole I've racist with a persecution complex and a need to dominate every room. We are anonymous and we are going straight to the point. Donald Trump is going to war with his own party, and it is threatening Mike Johnson's job. And it is honestly hysterical to watch Trump spiral in real time as Republicans across the country start turning on him. Not because they suddenly found courage, not because they developed morals overnight, but because Trump's chaos is now crashing into their reality. He is burning their seats, their agenda, their headlines, and their control. Tonight's revolt inside Congress, where Republicans helped strip Trump of one of the key powers he has abused. We are anonymous and we are going straight to the point. Donald Trump is going to war with his own party, and it is threatening Mike Johnson's job. And it is honestly hysterical to watch Trump spiral in real time as Republicans across the country start turning on him. Not because they suddenly found courage, not because they developed morals overnight, but because Trump's chaos is now crashing into their reality. He is burning their seats, their agenda, their headlines, and their control. Tonight's revolt inside Congress, where Republicans helped strip Trump of one of the key powers he has abused throughout his presidency, is one of the biggest reasons for this meltdown. But it is not the only reason. Governors are also making Trump furious, and one comment from Wes Moore set off a chain reaction that ended with Trump attacking a Republican governor this morning. That was the first open attack we saw from Trump on his own party, before he escalated and started threatening Mike Johnson's job with a string of outrageous posts. It starts with something simple and ugly. Trump planned a dinner and meeting with governors at the White House, and he decided he would exclude the only black governor in the country. Let that sink in. Out of all the governors, the one person he singled out for exclusion was the only black one. And Wes Moore did what Trump hates most. He did not beg. He did not flatter. He did not try to psychoanalyze Trump like he is some complicated mystery. He said he has learned that getting inside Trump's psyche is not a good use of time. He said it is not lost on him that he is the only black governor.
Well, I've long learned that I'm not trying to get inside of the president's psyche. It's not a good use of my time. It's not lost on me that I'm the only black governor in this country. And
he said it is painful because the president is trying to exclude him from an organization his
Trump
peers
moving
asked him to help
closer
lead, and
to
from
a war
place
with
where he knows he
Iran.
belongs. And then he said something that hits like a hammer, because it
Diversion
is the
after
lived
diversion.
reality of people who have had to navigate power structures built to keep them out.
and I find that to be, particularly painful, considering the fact that the president is trying to exclude me from an organization that not only all my peers have asked me to help to lead, but then also a place where I know I belong in. And so I've long learned, and I've talked to the people and the children of my state.
He said he's never in a room because of someone's benevolence or kindness.
Is that I'm never in a room because of someone's benevolence nor kindness.
In other words, you do not get access because Trump is generous. You get access because you force your way into the room through competence and strength. And the racism is just baked in and expected at this point from Donald Trump. That is the baseline. Now here is why this mattered beyond the dinner itself.
From your perspective, why are you being excluded from this dinner?
Because Wes Moore was not just calling out a scheduling decision. He was calling out the core of what Trump is. Trump is not misunderstood. He is not rough around the edges. He is not telling it like it is. He is a petty racist with a persecution complex and a need to dominate every room. He loves power, but he does not understand leadership. He loves applause, but he cannot handle equal footing. And he especially cannot handle a public figure who will not kneel. That is why the people who manage Trump successfully do it the same way every time. Do not cede ground. Do not praise him. Do not act scared. Show strength and Trump will eventually crawl toward you because he is addicted to the idea that strength belongs to him. When someone else displays it, he tries to break them. When he cannot, he moves on to the next target and calls it winning. Trump got called out for excluding Wes Moore, and it triggered him for multiple reasons. It exposed him, it embarrassed him, and it drew attention to the fact that his gatherings are not about governance, they are about hierarchy. So he lashed out, and here is where the chain reaction becomes important. Trump did not just lash out at Democrats. He lashed out at a Republican governor. That is the tell. That is the crack in the wall. Because when Trump cannot control the story, he does not protect allies. He punishes them. His loyalty is one way. It flows toward him. The moment it does not, he calls you a traitor. In a fit of rage, Trump went after the governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt, calling him a rhino, which is insane because Oklahoma is deep Trump country. Trump won all 77 counties there 3 times. But Trump does not care about your voters. He does not care about your history. He only cares about your submission. He claimed the governor incorrectly stated that the White House intended to limit invitations to
I mean, I'm there. I mean, y'all can go over there. Eventually, I'm gonna start going live over there.
Trump called that false.
Cause
he said invitations were sent to all
messing with my
governors
account
other than
over
2
here.
who he claims are not worthy
So
of being
eventually,
there. He said he did
I
not
may need
invite
to
the
add the
governor
link.
of Colorado.
Grateful.
He also said
Why
he did
you
not
ask?
invite the governor of Maryland. And then he turned the knife on Wes Moore by claiming in his words that Moore fraudulently stated he received military medals, calling it a lie. He accused him of doing a terrible job rebuilding the Francis Scott Key Bridge. He claimed he allowed Baltimore to continue to be a crime disaster. And because Trump cannot resist turning politics into a schoolyard fight, he threw out insults about other governors too, bragging that he invited slump Governor J.B. Pritzker and horrendous Governor Gavin Newsom, calling him new scum. This is who Trump is. He does not debate. He degrades. Then Trump doubled back and intensified the attack on the Republican governor, writing that Kevin Stitt is a very mediocre at best rhino governor. He claimed Stitt was losing his election to a Democrat, primarily because he is bad at his job and called for Trump's help. Trump said he endorsed him and he won. Then he wrote, "Sorry, my cherished Oklahoma to have done that to you." Signed President DJT. That is the whole Trump playbook. He acts like the party exists to serve him. He claims every win is because of him. He treats people like they owe him forever. And then when he feels slighted, he attacks them publicly and expects them to still thank him for the privilege. Now, normally, this is where Republicans would pretend nothing happened. They would laugh nervously, say Trump is just being Trump and move on. But tonight, they did not move on. Tonight, Republicans in Congress served Trump an L that is driving him insane.
Gave him an L.
Where it hurts most. It shows he is losing control of his own party. 6 House Republicans defied him on a key agenda item as pretend nothing
big old
happened.
L.
They would laugh nervously, say Trump is just being Trump and move on. But tonight, they did not move on. Tonight, Republicans in Congress served Trump an L that is driving him insane because it hits him where it hurts most. It shows he is losing control of his own party. 6 House Republicans defied him on a key agenda item as Democrats pushed a vote. The House passed legislation aimed at reversing Trump's tariffs on Canada after several Republicans joined Democrats for a rare rebuke of the Republican commander-in-chief. Democrats used a procedural mechanism called a privileged resolution to force a vote over the objections of House Majority leadership. That is important because it means the usual gatekeepers could not bury it quietly. It had to happen, and it happened with Republicans crossing the line. That is the revolt. That is the rebellion. That is the moment Trump cannot undo with a nickname. And this is where Mike Johnson's problem becomes clear. Mike Johnson is a puppet. He is Trump's puppet. He is not an independent power center. His job exists because Trump's grip on the party exists. So when Mike Johnson fails to control the House, Trump looks weak. And when Trump looks weak, he panics. But the panic does not make him strategic. It makes him destructive. Instead of stabilizing the party to protect the majority, he starts threatening his own members. He starts lighting fires under his own coalition. And that is how he threatens Mike Johnson's job. Not by directly filing a motion, but by creating political conditions where Republicans lose seats and the Speaker's gavel slips out of Johnson's hands. Trump responded in the only language he speaks, a blend of grievance and threat. He wrote that Canada has taken advantage of the United States on trade for many years, calling them among the worst in the world to deal with, especially on the northern border. He declared tariffs make a win for us easy.
He told Republicans they must keep it that way. And when Republicans did not keep it that way, he escalated into an outright warning. He said any Republican in the House or Senate who votes against tariffs will seriously suffer the consequences come election time, including primaries. He repeated the phrase seriously, suffer, like he wanted it to sound inevitable. Then he wrapped it in bragging, claiming the trade deficit has been reduced dramatically, claiming stock market numbers that are supposedly impossible, claiming tariffs give great national security because the mere mention of the word makes countries comply. He framed opposition as destroying a privilege granted by him. This is pure Trump. He treats policy like a personal favor, then treats dissent like treason. But here's the part Trump either does not understand or refuses to accept. For most of the Republicans who voted against him, primaries have already passed. The calendar does not bend to Trump's tantrum. There is no time for him to insert a new MAGA candidate in many of these races. The threat is not a clean primary challenge, where Trump can crown someone and bully the base into line. In many cases, the threat lands in the general election, where voters are broader, where margins are tighter, and where Trump's toxicity can be the difference between holding the seat and losing it. So when Trump threatens them, he is not just threatening their careers. He is threatening the party's majority. He is threatening Mike Johnson's speakership. Let's go through who voted against Trump's Canada tariffs, because the names matter in the story. The 6 Republicans were Thomas Massey, Don Bacon, Brian Fitzpatrick, Jeff Hurd, Kevin Kiley, and Dan Newhouse. 2 of those names tell you why Trump does not actually care about collateral damage. Massey has a primary opponent and is built for this kind of fight. Don Bacon is retiring, so Trump can't punish him the way he wants. But the other 4, Fitzpatrick, Hurd, Kiley, Newhouse, are running for re-election. Those are seats that can be tough. Those are seats where a few points matter. Those are seats where an angry Trump can cost Republicans the House. And if Republicans lose the House, Mike Johnson is done. So Trump is actively attacking the structure that keeps his puppet in place. This is why the title fits. Republican uprising strips power from Johnson, because even when Republicans are not directly voting to remove Johnson, they are creating the conditions that make his job impossible. They are breaking from Trump on a major issue. They are signaling they will not always obey. And Trump, instead of managing the rebellion, is pouring gasoline on it. He is telling those members to suffer. He is threatening to sabotage them. He is basically saying, if you do not obey me, I will help you lose. That is not leadership. That is a hostage taker. And do not be surprised if more Republicans start searching for opportunities to distance themselves from Trump's tariffs, because tariffs raise prices. Tariffs hit businesses. Tariffs squeeze consumers. And Republicans in swing districts know their voters will feel it. They will want to go home and say, I wanted no part of this. I voted against it. I tried to stop it. They will want to separate themselves from the pain Trump is causing. Even Republicans who are afraid of Trump's online attacks also know something else. In a general election, you cannot survive on MAGA rage alone. You need moderates. You need independents. You need people who do not live on Truth Social. So every time Trump forces them to choose between loyalty to him and survival in their district, he is creating more potential defectors. There is also another layer that a lot of people quietly understand. Some Republicans worry about more than just politics when Trump targets them. They worry about safety. Trump does not just criticize. He signals, he points, he sends a mob. The culture around him treats his posts like marching orders. That is why some Republicans flinch even when they hate him. They fear the base. They fear harassment. They fear threats. And that fear keeps them obedient longer than they want to admit. But tonight proved something. The fear is cracking. If 6 could defy him on tariffs, more can. The spell is not permanent. And while all of this is happening,
yeah, I need for y'all to hit the like button. I'm going to pause for a minute so that y'all can hit the like button. Double tap the 3 dots at the top right corner and hit the like button. Can y'all hit the 3 dots? And if you're on your phone, double tap the face of your phone.
Insurance agent for 30 years.
Hi,
the broader
Sharon.
context is that
Trump is stacking up failures and embarrassments across his agenda. People keep tallying the defeats because the pattern is consistent. Trump tries to weaponize institutions and it backfires. Trump tries to bully and it creates resistance. Trump tries to seize control and courts push back. Prosecutors walk. Officials resign. States sue. Cities resist. And Trump responds to every pushback the same way. He escalates. He threatens. He whines. He claims victory and then he looks for someone to blame. He does not adapt. He cannot. His ego will not allow it. That is why this moment matters. Trump is used to the Republican Party acting like a single organism that moves when he speaks. But that is not what we are seeing. We are seeing governors calling him out. We are seeing a Republican governor get attacked for not repeating Trump's line. We are seeing House Republicans join Democrats to rebuke him. We are seeing Mike Johnson trapped between a shrinking majority and a raging man who demands obedience at the cost of power. And the funniest part, if this was not so dangerous, is that Trump is doing the Democrats' work for them. He is sabotaging his own side because he cannot tolerate resistance. So understand what is happening right now. Trump is spiraling because he is losing his grip. The revolt in Congress stripped him of a key tool he has used.
He know his hands
and
weak
it
anyway.
publicly proved that his party is not fully under his control anymore. Governors are speaking up. Members are defecting. And Trump is threatening to punish them in the only way he knows, by trying to make them lose. That threat is not just cruelty. It is strategic self-destruction. It is Trump choosing dominance over victory, revenge over results, tantrum over strategy. And in doing so, he is threatening Mike Johnson's job, because Johnson's power is built on a majority that Trump is now willing to set on fire. That is the dark truth inside the comedy. Trump is not a master strategist. He is a wrecking ball. He breaks institutions, he breaks alliances, he breaks parties, and he calls the rubble proof of strength. But rubble does not pass bills, rubble does not hold majorities, rubble does not keep a speaker in the chair. So watch the next few weeks closely, because if Republicans keep turning on Trump, even in small numbers, the math gets brutal fast. And if Trump keeps threatening his own members, the way he is doing now, the speaker's gavel becomes less a symbol of power and more a countdown timer.
Your insurance company knows you qualify for discounts. They just don't tell.
Okay.
You're watching the Legal Breakdown. Glenn, we have a grim update as far as the Epstein files are concerned, and it directly implicates Donald Trump. There's been more and more evidence from the Epstein files emerging that implicate Trump specifically with some young girls. I'm not going to share any specifics because it's too graphic to share here. It's readily available on Twitter for folks who are interested in doing a deeper dive into this stuff. But suffice it to say that the stories that were put forward and submitted to law enforcement on behalf of these young girls are as gruesome and vile as it gets.
Wow.
Which raises the question about Pam Bondi's involvement in all of this, because just a few days ago, just a week ago, Pam Bondi testified in front of the Oversight Committee, and she said this.
There is no evidence that Donald.
You're watching the Legal Breakdown. Glenn, we have bombshell news here, the news that we've been waiting for.
Hold on. I don't know what just happened. I guess because y'all not hitting the like button, so it just flipped and did what it wanted to do. Come on.
You're watching the Legal Breakdown. Glenn, we have a grim update as far as the Epstein files are concerned. Files, Epstein files.
Yeah, Brian.
Current presidency.
So that was Pam Bondi saying, and I quote, "There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime." But doesn't that...
Are y'all... Come on now. So, are y'all ready to go? Because I got stuff I can do if y'all not going to hit the like button. What are we doing? I'm an hour and 18 minutes in. It don't make no sense to me. I don't understand this. What we doing? Hit the like button. Come on. Where is that? Thank you, Money. Here is that Twitch link. I'm gonna be going live over there here shortly. Oh, it may not let me do it that way. Are y'all able to see that? Oh, it's not blue though. I'm gonna have to add it this way then. Y'all ready? Y'all not hitting the like button. So I'm really not in a hurry to move forward. I don't know what's going on. Thank you, Monty. I see you. I see you. Hold on. I'm putting that link in my description box. And that way y'all can go to it from the description box. Copy and paste it. Copy and paste it so that y'all can go over to my Twitch and subscribe. So that y'all won't miss a live, because it appears that they are playing with my account. And it is what it is. Y'all ain't nobody hit the like button. I don't know what that's about. Double tap the three dots at the top right so we can continue to move forward. I don't know what game y'all playing, but I don't feel like that right now.
Negate the fact that there is evidence contained within the Epstein files, credibility notwithstanding, because I don't know whether they've gone into the credibility of that evidence, but there does exist evidence that Donald Trump has done something wrong or committed a crime. And so can you speak to that statement that was put forward by Pam Bondi in light of this new evidence that's surfacing right now from the Epstein files?
Yeah, Brian, a couple of things are at play here. First of all, if a witness or an alleged victim orally communicates to the FBI or any law enforcement agency, I was assaulted, that's evidence of a potential crime. Now, it has to be investigated. It has to be either corroborated or contradicted, or if neither of those two things can be accomplished by law enforcement, it may just sit in FBI or law enforcement files, sort of pending further investigative leads that can be pursued. But the reality is, if you're reading that in a police file, it's evidence. It may not be credible evidence at the end of the day. It may be credible evidence at the end of the day, but it is clearly evidence contained in the file. So I have to tell you, Brian, when I saw the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, say there is no evidence that Donald Trump committed any crime, and then we started to see reports from people who are doing deep dives into the, millions of Epstein documents, and things began to emerge that seemed to implicate or at least reference some of the things Donald Trump had done.
Are you over the age of 50, thinking about life insurance, but worried about pre-existing conditions, medical exams, or blood tests?
I agree with a number of lawmakers that I have heard say Pam Bondi lied in her testimony before the House Judiciary Committee. It would have been very different if she had said, for example, there is no credible evidence in the Epstein files that Donald Trump engaged in any criminal activity. You know what? that word would have done some real heavy lifting in protecting her against an allegation that she lied to Congress. Now, she would have to back it up with, for example, we saw the references to Donald Trump's conduct in there. We drilled down, we investigated, we interviewed the witnesses and the victims, and we deemed it to be not credible at the end of the day. Then if she had said, there's no credible evidence in the Epstein files that Donald Trump engaged in any crimes or misconduct, that might be a completely different story. That's not what she said. And that's why I think you are hearing some lawmakers, and I agree with those lawmakers. It appears that Bondi committed the crime of making a false statement to Congress. It's kind of similar to perjury, but when somebody lies to Congress, whether under oath or not, it's what we call a 1001 statement under 18 United States Code, Section 1001, false statements to Congress. Each false statement you make to Congress carries with it up to 5 years in prison. And, based on this old prosecutor's assessment of her testimony and what we are learning, what's emerging from the Epstein files, it seems like, at some point, she's going to have to be investigated once the rule of law comes back into the light of day for the potential crimes she committed before Congress.
Well, it's clear that the DOJ under Pam Bondi is not going to investigate Pam Bondi. I mean, hell, the whole point of this DOJ is that they don't investigate or prosecute anybody aligned with their administration. But I guess the question remains, what is the statute of limitations for something like this? And is it something that a subsequent administration will be able to pick up?
Yeah, a 1001 violation, false statement to Congress, carries a 5-year statute of limitations. So assuming the next presidential election goes to the Democrats, then you're going to have the rule of law becoming a thing again, importantly, in the Department of Justice itself. And the one thing I have been beating the drum about, Brian, as have you, is, we tried the lack of accountability route last time when Donald Trump left office. And, it feels to me like Merrick Garland sort of de facto was of the belief that, again, we have to just put this long national nightmare behind us with no accountability for any of the crimes of Trump and company. Eventually, when push came to shove, he appointed Jack Smith. Too little, too late, notwithstanding Jack Smith's best efforts. But, we have been fooled before, right? Gerald Ford said we were going to put the long national nightmare behind us by deciding to pardon Richard Nixon and, make sure there was no accountability at all for the crimes that he committed in a very real sense against the American people. I would assert that, in fact, in practice, we tried that again last time Donald Trump left power. And you know what? If we do it a third time, once the Democrats come back into power, if we again decide for whatever reason to decline to hold Trump and company accountable for their crimes, as far as I'm concerned, we don't keep our republic, and frankly, I don't think we deserve to keep our republic. So that's why, I will remain, focused like a laser beam on accountability for the crimes being perpetrated against the American people by Trump and anybody else that an investigation shows committed crimes. They need to be held accountable.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad you said that. And I would use this opportunity then to tell folks who aren't yet subscribed to both of these channels, both my channel and Glenn's channel, if you think that our commentary is important and meets the urgency of this moment, the best way to show some support for our work is to subscribe to our channels. It's 100% free, but it's a great way to support us and independent media. So those links are in the post description of this video after the fact. So can you speak about that a little bit? Because your theory of this case has actually been validated by a number of state attorneys general that I've spoken with after the fact.
Yeah, if we learned anything going back to the Watergate era, if the crime doesn't get you, the cover-up will, because it really was the cover-up that brought Richard Nixon and his criminal associates down. So now we have the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, and potentially others engaged in what sure looks like a cover-up. We would need to drill down, we would need to investigate, but we know that there are improper redactions being made to the Epstein files in violation of federal law, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, and we know some of the potential wrongdoers, their identity is being hidden from the public in violation of federal law. If that is not accessory after the fact, helping people avoid accountability for their crimes, I don't know what is. You know, to be an accessory after
Why
the
is that not
fact,
a
all
crime?
it takes is you have to know a crime has been committed in violation of the laws of the United States, and you have to do anything that would actually help the perpetrator avoid detection, apprehension, trial, or punishment. You know, by wrongfully and unlawfully concealing the names of people who seem to have been involved in criminal conduct contained in the Epstein files, it's really no different than Pam Bondi just hiding these people out in their basement to make sure, what? That they're not detected, that they're not tried, that they're not punished, that they're not held accountable for their crimes. So the elements, the principles of the crime, accessory after the fact, seem to be there in spades. And again, we have to wait for the rule of law to come back into the light of day, you know, because we know Pam Bondi and Todd Blanchard are not going to hold themselves accountable, and they're sure as heck not going to do anything that could, you know, visit Donald Trump in a negative way.
Glenn, do you have faith that our judicial system can handle this? And I ask as somebody who did hundreds of episodes with you during the 2020 to 2024 period, where Trump was being prosecuted in 4 legitimate different cases, was indicted in these cases, and none of them were able to be seen through until the end. And so, look, I know that a lot of people watching this right now are gonna say, yeah, sure, they can be held accountable, but what is there to show that we actually have the stomach to hold powerful people to account in this country, given everything that we've seen? And so, what would your response be to that criticism?
Yeah, Brian, it's a fair question, and it's an important question. Do I think the judiciary is up to the task of holding, in particular, the ruling class criminals accountable? My answer is yes, and now half of the viewers have probably said, Glenn, you're full of baloney, because we're not seeing a lot of accountability coming to Donald Trump. But I always have to ask folks to take a step back and remember where we were when Trump won the last presidential election. We were in the process of challenging corrupt Judge Aileen Cannon's dismissal of the classified documents case, challenging it in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. And let me tell you, Jack Smith's team would have won that challenge. The case would have been returned to the trial court, probably with the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals ordering that it not go back to Judge Cannon, but rather go to a fair, independent, impartial judge, because the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals had previously reversed, I would call it a smackdown, reversed Judge Cannon twice previously for abusing her judicial discretion in favor of Donald Trump. I mean, I still have a hard time absorbing that she was not removed from the classified documents case earlier. But that case was in active litigation. It would have been returned and it would have gone forward because it wouldn't enjoy presidential immunity. These were crimes Donald Trump was indicted for after he left the presidency. No presidential immunity for that. Where were we in the January 6th case? There were 4 felony charges indicted against Donald Trump. True, a compromised Supreme Court rewrote the Constitution and gave him absolute immunity, but only for one category of crimes. Crimes that he committed as part of his core constitutional functions, like sending the military to kill his political opponents. For some reason, 6 justices of the Supreme Court thought that was a good idea, to give a president, free rein, leeway, a get-out-of-jail-free card for ordering the military to kill his political opponents. Again, I don't know this world that we're living in right now, Brian, but there were 2 other categories of presidential crimes. One, crimes that a president commits in his official capacity enjoys a presumption of immunity, but the prosecutors can rebut that presumption. And perhaps most importantly, private acts of a candidate, like a candidate who is aggrieved because he lost an election, so he committed crimes to try to unlawfully retain the power of the presidency. there is no immunity for those crimes. And I maintain the J6 crimes for which Donald Trump was indicted fall into that third category. Where were we in that case? We were in front of Judge Tanya Chutkan litigating the precise issues that I just laid out in these three categories of crimes. And that case would have proceeded to trial. Wouldn't have been quick, wouldn't have been easy. We were in the process. The judiciary, but for the 6 compromised Supreme Court justices, the judiciary writ large was in the process of holding Donald Trump accountable. And it was only because he got elected president and DOJ has deigned that you can't prosecute a sitting criminal president, but you can once he leaves office. We're not done by a long shot. And the judiciary was holding strong with a few notable exceptions, Aileen Cannon and some of the Supreme Court justices. I still believe to my core, Brian, I was in the business of a federal prosecutor for 30 years. I still believe to my core the federal judiciary is up to the task, and if given the opportunity, and the way it will be given the opportunity is if, Donald Trump falls from power, hopefully, even before the end of his 4-year term at the rate he's going. I don't wish him any harm, and I'm always, talking about how we have to fight peacefully to make sure he gets dethroned at the earliest possible moment. But once he falls from power, we should be back in the business of holding Donald Trump accountable for his crimes. So in the most long-winded answer I've ever given you, yes, I have faith and confidence that the judiciary remains up to the task.
The difficult part for me to process is we are told that the American judicial system is like the gold standard, right? And then we see this kind of stuff happen at the hands of Donald Trump. We see the judiciary unable to see his prosecution through to the end. And then just like that, we see Brazil prosecute and imprison, their criminal leaders. We see it in South Korea, like these other countries who don't beat their chests as these behemoths of law and order, these beacons of virtue and integrity. Like they're just regular other countries around the world that are able to do what somehow eludes us in this shining city on a hill in America.
Brian, I don't even think I would call the U.S. of A. one of the regular old countries. I think we have fallen beneath the expectation of a civilized country, and we should look to and learn from the other countries that have decided, apparently, I think we can throw France into that category as well, decided that they are determined to hold folk accountable, even if those people are rich, powerful, influential, connected. Other countries have decided, no, the rule of law will apply to those folk as well. And they go about using the same system they use against everybody else, and they hold them accountable. We are falling so far beneath that sort of, basic sort of responsibility of a civilized nation that, we are going to need to kind of dig ourselves out of this hole and restore, the public's faith in our ability to treat everybody equally under the law.
Well, look, I'm grateful for your voice in hopefully getting us back to that point at some juncture in the future. So for those who are watching, again, if you'd like to support our work, elevate our voices, the best way to do that is to subscribe. I'm going to put the links to both of our channels right here on the screen. So if you're not yet subscribed, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Completely free to do so, but again, a great way to support us and independent media. I'm Brian Teller Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.
Let's go. Let's go to the...
I'm joined now by Congressman Ro Khanna.
I want to go to the hat. They be trying to make me go... Y'all hit the like button. Say bye to Joseph. Bye. What Joseph say? I missed it. Bye, Joseph. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. I don't know what you did, but she said you out of here. You're out of here. Did you hit the like button, Joseph, before you got put out? Yeah, my voice is gone. I was clowning yesterday on somebody's platform in the Mo3 sector. I had to get down and dirty in the Mo3 sector yesterday. So that's why I don't have no voice. Hold on. Down and dirty. Where is the hat? There you go.
No annoying ads. No Wi-Fi? No problem. Play any
all day.
Have the millions of Epstein files that the Trump regime continues to conceal, have they been hacked by a foreign government? Iran, perhaps. Have foreign governments, Iran, perhaps, have they hacked into the emails of Donald Trump, of people in Donald Trump's regime, of other people who are identified in very grotesque and despicable ways in the Epstein files? We know that Iran has a history of hacking Donald Trump and people in his regime, and Ayatollah Khomeini, the supreme leader of Iran, has hinted that he possibly has information that could bring down Donald Trump and the regime. Here's what Khomeini says: "This island of corruption is only one example. There is much more of this. Just as this was not apparent and then became exposed, there are many other things that will soon come to light. Everything we had ever heard about their corruption is one thing. This affair of that morally corrupt island is another altogether. These are indicative of what Western civilization and liberal democracy are. They proceed for 200, 300 years, and this is the ultimate outcome." Now, we know that in 2024, Iran hacked the Trump campaign with a spear phishing operation. Microsoft alerted the Trump regime that they were hacked. Frankly, the Trump regime knew they were hacked before Microsoft alerted them, but then the Trump regime had to go public when Microsoft had to go public with the data breach. So what did Iran get in 2024? You may recall someone by the name of Robert, who was representing the interests of Iran, went to media outlets to try to give them dirt on Donald Trump at that time. There was an indictment against Iranian hackers that followed in September of 2024. Thereafter, Iran hacked Trump's Truth social media platform in June of 2025. And Iran said that they got a lot of sensitive information by hacking Truth Social. Whether that's true or not, we don't yet know what they got in that hack, but it is undisputed that they hacked Truth Social when Trump struck Iran, when he attacked Iran's nuclear facilities back last June. Iran utilizes very sophisticated hacker groups. The 313 team is one such group. Handala is another such group. And other Iranian-backed hacker groups have been out there going after the Trump regime and going after people who are affiliated with the Trump regime and who are affiliated with Epstein. One of the people who were hacked that had a treasure trove of Epstein emails that the Iranian-backed hacker group Handala gave to DDoS, which stands for Distributed Denial of Secrets, a website which is widely considered to be the
Oh, I'm sorry.
successor of WikiLeaks. They hacked former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. Drop Site News was the first to report on that hack. We reported it here on the Midas Touch Network, and this was many, many months ago. That hack was May of 2025 or so. By the way, that was before the other hack in June of 2025 on Donald Trump's Truth Social platform. And so Iran had been loading these Epstein documents from Ehud Barak, showing that Epstein and Ehud Barak were involved in these arms deals across the world. When people were saying, oh, it's just conspiratorial that Epstein was involved in all of these things, and we know Epstein is involved in all of these things. Here's how it was described, the emails that they got, that the hacker group got. An Israeli drone company, malaria testing technology, and the proposed sale of an American billionaire's oil and gas empire are among the many previously unknown business ventures that former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak discussed with the late sex offender and financier Jeffrey Epstein, emails reveal. Epstein served as a trusted financial advisor, fixer, concierge, sounding board, and even friend to the ex-Israeli leader during a long-running relationship that blurred professional and personal boundaries, their emails suggest. That was from May of 2025, and you may remember on the Midas Touch Network, we talked about that then. Back in August of 2024, Donald Trump posted, "We were just informed by Microsoft Corporation that one of our many websites was hacked by the Iranian government." Never a nice thing to do.
Hacking in
They
there,
were
ain't
only
they?
able to get publicly available information, but nevertheless, they shouldn't be doing anything of this nature. Iran and others will stop at nothing because our government is weak and ineffective, but it won't be for long. What Iran doesn't realize is that I will make the world a better and safer place, and that's good for them
the
also.
entire human
And then we know
race.
that Truth Social was hacked. Iranian-aligned hackers claim responsibility for Truth Social cyber attack. This is June 23rd, 2025. Hackers
Joe.
aligned with Iran have claimed responsibility for a cyber attack on Trump's Truth Social platform. According to the Cyber Nonprofit Center for Internet Security, the Iran-aligned hacking group 313 team took credit for a distributed denial of service attack on Truth Social within hours of U.S. strikes on several Iranian nuclear facilities Saturday, a CIS spokesperson confirmed. And I think it's important that we ask, is Donald Trump worried that Iran has the goods on him and people in his regime? Just take a look at Donald Trump's behavior.
Iran wants
Let's
Trump
look at it
out.
objectively.
Iran got a
Back on
50
January 13th of 2026,
million
this is what
dollar,
Donald Trump said to Iranian
bag on his
protesters.
head.
Iranian patriots, keep protesting, take over your institutions, save the names of the killers and abusers. They will pay a big price. I have canceled all meetings with Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stops. Help is on its way. MAGA, make Iran great again. President Donald J. Trump, he told the protesters, keep protesting. I've got your back. And at the same time, Donald Trump was doing TV appearances where he said, I told the Iranian leaders, you better not start shooting, because we'll start shooting too in early to mid-January of 2026. Here's what Donald Trump said.
The protesters, I just hope, just God bless them. I just hope the protesters in Iran are going to be safe, because it's a very dangerous place right now. And again,
Okay, so hold on.
Iranian
So
leaders,
this is the clone. They got a speech impairment. This is either the drunk clone or it has a speech. Or the teeth don't fit. Let's hear this.
protesters in Iran are going to be safe, because it's a very dangerous place right now. And again, I tell the Iranian leaders, you better not start shooting, because we'll start shooting too.
You better not start shooting.
Now, after that, Iran
we'll
started
start
shooting. They massacred thousands of the protesters who Donald Trump said go out and protest. They listened to what Donald Trump was saying. Trump said he had their back. And not only did he throw them under the bus, he threw them into a
deaths, like literally threw them
He
into
like the
their
scary
deaths.
little brother.
And then
Always running his
after
mouth,
all
starting
these
shit with the
thousands
big
and
boys.
thousands of protesters were massacred,
With the big
and the
boys.
Ayatollah put the protest
run
down,
home crying.
Donald Trump wrote, "I greatly respect the fact that all scheduled hangings, which were to take place yesterday, over 800 of them, have been canceled by the leadership of Iran. Thank you."
Y'all join the link. Join Twitch.
2026
I'll be
mantra,
starting going
don't settle
live
for
over
number
there
two,
shortly.
even when you're going number two. Bidets put your well-being first, no matter what weird chapter of self-improvement you might be going through. Have dirt on him, and is Trump afraid to help the protesters or do what he claims he's going to do because he believes that they have records on him from the hacks? Or are they even in his head right now where he doesn't know what they have or they don't have? There was someone very close to the Ayatollah in the Iranian parliament who gave an interview recently, and he said what Donald Trump has been communicating through back channels, through the Qataris, through the
We just
Ayatollah
received
is,
another
look,
a new
Donald Trump
Nancy
just wants
Guthrie.
to
Oh
make
my
it
God,
look
this
like
ain't nobody
he's
but
hip.
Trump. This is Trump, and he trolling, and TMZ going along with that shit. It's just, we just received a new Nancy Guthrie ransom demand. Because they started doing that stupid stuff, and Trump showed his hand. I'm not even interested in it. Y'all hit the like button. Why would tell another to protest and then throw them under the bus? Stay out of what? Yeah, the other countries. Yeah, I thought you was talking about that other. You know, why would the ransom people keep going through TMZ instead of Savannah Guthrie herself? I mean, come on, and keep asking for Bitcoins. There ain't nobody but Trump. He the one that's broke on Bitcoins. Let that girl mama go. You shouldn't have been messing with them kids. That's it. That's all. And at this point, she probably, I hate to say this, unless she getting medicine. So are you providing her with medicine? Because they said it was destitute, that she, had to have her medicine, right? And it's been, 3 weeks? What, you done recorded her voice and have them thinking that she's still alive? Because at this point, I don't believe it. And why you still begging? Do what you gonna do, or let her go. Do what you gonna do, or let her go. Piss or get off the pot. Because at this point, you ain't doing nothing but trolling this girl. You on get back, because you know that the shit finna come out on you. So you are on full-blown get back. Spiteful, hateful. This is just classic Trump. You asked him about the Clintons. Well, they wanted me to go. I really yeah, I hope they get in there and tell all his business. He took it all the way down the throat. I didn't gag, did nothing. He's so used to having somebody's in their mouth, they pickle in their mouth, he didn't even gag. I don't think Nancy Guthrie is not alive. I think, she could be. She could be sitting right in a military detention center jail cell. She very well could be. I believe ICE went in there and got her. Because he mad. And he trifling. And he know he's getting exposed. So unless because I'm sure he has a doctor who could provide whatever it is, medicine, because, he's sickly. And then you got doctors quitting and all that type of stuff. So, it just got him all over it. It got him all over it. And as far as how he looking at it, she's one of the ones that first gave the survivors a platform. Oh, I pray for her peaceful, but I do. But I don't want to, I'm not praying for Trump in his games. Maybe if you could understand that better. But I think she's sitting in the jail cell at a detention center. So if you didn't hear that, hear that. I said that. So pissed to get off the pot. Quit begging for money and give her back her mama. Y'all didn't hear me say that? So I'll let all guessing pray instead. I'm really grown. I know exactly what I'm doing. You are half-ass listening. I said return that lady back her mama. So what that mean? If you hear somebody say return her back, what that mean to you? Why don't you listen instead of trying to tell me what to do on my platform, sir? Yeah. And when you popped in, my likes didn't go up. So please don't be putting no comments and you don't come in hitting the like button. So for that, you out of here. Bye-bye. Trying to check me and you ain't even listening. Now, can I get y'all to hit the like button? Double tap the face of your screen. Hit those 3 dots at the top right. And again, for the ones that's half-ass listening, I said return her back to Savannah Guthrie. Return her back while you're constantly begging for more money, more bitcoins every other damn day. You should not have food with those kids. And you mad at her because she gave them a platform. It's an easy read. He's so very predictable. Very predictable. So for us to play off into anything other than that, and they must have given him some money because he wants some more. He is the only one right now who bank accounts are frozen because of his fraudulent criminal activity. So he don't have no bank. The bank is frozen. So all he can do is get donations from Bitcoins. I don't put anything past Trump that evil and corrupt and mean, downright mean. I mean, downright mean, spiteful and hateful. But y'all, if he the Antichrist, he doing what the devil do, right? Now, I'm asking y'all nicely to hit the like button. Hi, Sarah. And it's in Arizona, too. So much has been going on in Arizona. If it ain't him, it's Erica Kurt. Who else? Then you had somebody got shot from ICE in Phoenix in Arizona not too long ago. It's been a lot going on in Arizona. And the interview he had with her. Oh, absolutely. I saw that interview first, and then I realized that she had the survivors on there. And she interviewed Virginia Giuffre. Oh, I said, oh, yeah, this ain't nobody but Trump. He done had ICE go in there and get her, kick her door in. And then I saw one video of the camera, and it took so long for that. So all of that looked staged because, hell, it looked like she was walking out with the big guy. It's like, okay, y'all, please. You could have made it seem like they picked her up and dragged her out. So the way she walked out, she didn't look like she had been attacked. She didn't look like she had been fighting. She just looked like she was walking out the front door with somebody. I said, oh, no, this is, I'm not going. So I lost interest in it. I ain't gonna even lie. Yeah, she did that. Poor girl. Uh-huh. But did y'all see when she was walking out the front door from the video camera? I'm like, it don't take that long to get that video. I mean, how did you have the other footage before you had her walking out the front door? No. It's too predictable for me. So I just see it over here. TMZ said he just got another ransom note. And the fact that they keep going through TMZ ain't nobody but Trump because they cool like that. It's in the Epstein files. So this is a play.
Iran. Can you just
And a
allow
punishment.
Donald Trump to strike a few locations, pretend it's a big deal, and then we can all move on? This way Donald Trump can look tough. That's
Yeah.
the message that Donald Trump is allegedly sending through Qatar to the Ayatollah right now. And the message that the Ayatollah is sending back is basically, more is going to come out about you, Donald. Or here's what the Ayatollah Khomeini wrote as well. This is what he wrote yesterday. The Americans say, let's negotiate over your nuclear energy. And the result of the negotiation is supposed to be that you do not have this energy. If that's the case, there's no room for negotiation. But if negotiations are truly to take place, determining the outcome of the negotiations in advance is a wrong and foolish act. So the Ayatollah is calling Donald Trump a foolish negotiator, while also saying the island of corruption is only one such example. There's much more of this. Many other things will soon come to light, while saying Trump is a foolish negotiator. Now, if you don't believe the Ayatollah is hinting to Donald Trump that he's got dirt, then I've got some Trump Bibles to sell you right now. In addition, the Ayatollah's been talking tough back to Donald Trump. Ayatollah Khomeini threatened to sink U.S. aircraft carriers if Trump engages in any type of strikes on Iran. He says that Trump won't be able to topple the Islamic Republic. So what did Donald Trump say recently? Well, when Donald Trump was recently aboard Air Force One, he was asked about Iran. What do you think they want to do? And Donald Trump goes, I don't think they want the consequences of not making a deal. Well, I'm reading for you what the Ayatollah is saying.
Thank you,
who's
Purple
also
Flower
including
and
in
Deanna.
that we've got dirt on you.
Thank you for the
basically.
torch.
Here,
Thank you
play
for the
this clip of
flowers.
Donald Trump saying, I don't think they want the consequences of not making a deal. Here, play this clip.
An IQ of 85 to 150
Please hit the like
is
button.
considered average in the U.S. And IQ...
What are you expecting from these Iran talks in Geneva tomorrow? So I'll be involved in those talks indirectly, and they'll be very important. We'll see what
Thank
can
you
happen.
for the torch.
Typically, Iran's a very tough negotiator. They're good negotiators, or bad negotiators. I would say they're bad negotiators because we could have had a deal instead of sending the B-2s in to knock out their nuclear potential, and we had to send the B-2s. I hope they're going to be more reasonable. They want to make a deal. Been told that a deal is next to impossible? No, I think they want to make a deal. I don't think they want the consequences of not making a deal. They want to make a deal.
And meanwhile, you had Lindsey Graham saying anybody at the White House who thinks that the Ayatollah would honor a deal to give up their ambitions, you're a fool. Here's what Lindsey Graham has been saying. Here, play this clip.
President Trump said, if they come after you, they got to go through me. If you thought Afghanistan was a debacle, it was. The only thing worse would be to entice people out into the streets against a brutal dictator and pull the plug on them. To anybody at the White House who thinks the Ayatollah would honor a deal to give up his nuclear ambition, you're a fool. Donald Trump is not a fool. These people are out in the street because they believe in Trump.
Now, back on Air Force One, Donald Trump is asked about what's going on in Gaza. And Trump pretends, with all of this happening, that there's peace in the Middle East, he says. That he says, we're now in phase 2 in Gaza, everything's going great, there's a ceasefire. No, there isn't. There isn't. There have been hundreds of innocent Palestinians who have been killed by Israel since the ceasefire has been announced. There's also been Hamas who's killed who are not innocent. But there are women and children by the hundreds who have been killed in Palestine, in Gaza right now, while Trump is pretending that things are great when things are not great. Listen to what he has to say here. Play this clip.
Let's
Now
go.
that Gaza's entering phase 2, should Israel
Oh, he lost it.
foreign journalists being allowed into Gaza?
We'll be lifting a lot of bans pretty soon. I think you're going to see everything opening up. Gaza, look, we have peace in the Middle East. Now, you have some flames here and there, but we essentially have peace in the Middle East. And that happened primarily when we did the B-2 attack on the potential nuclear power. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month. If that happened, it would have been a whole different deal.
So I do find it fascinating, and I want to know your take. Do you think that Iran has indeed not? We know they've hacked. Like, it's not a question. Did they or did they not hack? They hacked. They hacked Trump's campaign. What did they get from all of the people? Did they get anything on Lutnick? Did they get anything on people in Trump's inner circle? Did they get things on Trump? We know they hacked. We know they hacked Truth Social. We know that Trump uses Truth Social as a way to do text messages, right? When Donald Trump was sending those text messages to Pam Bondi saying, you need to go after my political opponents, he accidentally posted it publicly. And he was like, Pam, here's what you need to do. He uses direct messages to communicate to Pam Bondi, to Lindsey Halligan, to people. So does Iran have all of his direct messages and other direct messages that were sent to him? Trump doesn't really use secure devices. Now, we also know that
Trump is
people
trying
like
to take
Mike
over
Waltz
Iran.
and Pete Hegseth, that they weren't in
He
sensitive
doesn't want
compartmented
Iran
information
to sell
facilities,
to
that
China
they've
and
been out
Russia.
there
Oh
messaging.
yeah,
So
because
what
he was
else
trying to
does Iran
strong
have?
on
What does
them.
313 have? What does
And they
Handala
went
have?
over.
What does
They
Robert
went
have?
past
The
him.
proxy who reached out
Y'all
to the
please
media
hit the
back
like
in
button. I'm gonna
2024.
have to shut it down.
What do they have on Ehud Barak? You know, it's interesting because when I was a litigator,
And I got 2 more things I need
one
to
of the
bring to
ways
y'all.
we
Complete
would
meltdown.
identify whether there were documents missing in document productions was not by hacking. We would send third-party subpoenas to other individuals and get their documents and compare it to what the defendant would produce or not produce, right? And so here, when you have the hacks of people
Worst
directed
president
who are in the Epstein
ever,
files,
Robo.
and you start seeing what their emails look
Ever.
like, and you compare it to what has been produced, that is significant. And I also think, let's be clear, the Iranian
Anna
hackers
Harbor.
are
Stinky human.
top-notch hackers. Like they're like, I'm not trying to like praise it. Just they have a very good hacking team. Great hackers can look at those Epstein files and see the emails and see everybody who's attached.
And I know
and
that's.
they could
I
get
know
a
he's sick.
roadmap of people's, how sloppy
Knowing
it was
that
handled by
somebody
the
can
DOJ.
tap
They
off
can get a
into 'em.
roadmap of who now to engage in spear phishing operations against as well. So I think a lot more will be coming out.
Yep.
Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe.
Okay, let's go. We running out of time because y'all ain't hitting the like button. So let's hurry on through. Let's skip to the loo, my darling. Skip to the loo, skip to the loo, skip to the loo, my darling. Thank y'all for the gems that I did receive. Let's see how much. We got 6 minutes left on this go. We only got 2 out of 10. Y'all please make sure y'all go and subscribe to my Twitch page. Copy and paste that link right there I just dropped. And in the meantime, hit the like button over here. Oh, Lord, I need some honey. Let's go. Let's see what I got next. Trump fan. Oh, Melania. I don't know why. Like Trump family caught in a massive corruption. I don't know why. Oh, we've been talked about that. I don't know why. Let's see what they're talking about. Epstein files. They secret is out. Hold on. I don't know why she played with the wolf, baby. He made it a point.
Strange that this happens. It's strange. People would either ask to borrow money or make some other types of comments.
Hold on. I was listening to it over here. So some things is coming out. They say a text sparks mega civil war. Wexner gets
New messages between Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein, released in the Epstein files, have ignited something of a civil war in MAGA world. In one message, Bannon suggests President Trump should be removed from office during his first term for erratic behavior. The Department of Justice also released a 2-hour video of Bannon interviewing Epstein for a potential documentary. This is Bannon asking about Epstein's time spent in prison in 2008.
You're telling me that during that day, you never had a moment. You sat there and go, what the f have I done with my life? I'm in a 6x9 jail cell.
You're suggesting I was somewhat depressed, and how could this happen to me?
I'm not saying depressed. I'm saying a moment of awareness of how could I get myself into this situation.
No, I would just say how strange that this happens. It's strange. People would either ask to borrow money or make some other types of comments about.
In the beginning, what were the comments? At the beginning, what were the comments?
It serves you rich guys right that you're here next to me.
There was nothing
Thank
about
you,
your
Janet.
crimes.
No.
So all this rumor you hear all the time about people in prison that commit the type of crimes you
Hey,
commit,
Joe.
that's you're saying in your personal thing is not true.
No.
It was all because you were rich.
Yes.
And Bannon did not return messages from CNN, but said in a statement to the New York Times that his communication with Epstein was all done to, quote, secure 50 hours of interviews from a reclusive subject. For more on this, I want to bring in David Urban, former Trump campaign advisor and CNN senior political commentator. David, great to see you. You're shaking your head. I want to get to why in just a second. You know, the 25th Amendment reference from the Epstein files has caused some uproar inside the magosphere. It's dated December 31st, 2018, and it's a text exchange between Bannon and Epstein. And we should note the context is unclear, but Bannon says, going to blow him up right out of the box. White House says zero plans to punch back. Fort Apache with no cavalry en route. Jeffrey Epstein then says, in No Soldiers in the Fort, he is really borderline, not sure what he may do. And then Bannon replies, I think it's beyond borderline 25th Amendment. Now, we reached out to Bannon on this exchange and have not received a response, but people like Roger Stone and Marjorie Taylor Greene are speaking out. So tell me about why you were shaking your head and tell me what you were hearing inside the president's supporters.
Yeah, so, John, you said also, you left out General Flynn and many, many others. If you go to Twitter and just look at, MAGA influencers or just Google, or put in the Twitter search, Bannon, Epstein, see what comes up. There is not one supporter, not one MAGA person that's supporting Steve Bannon for a variety of reasons. One, it looks like he signed up to try to rehabilitate a person who committed horrendous sex crimes. You hear him in the interview with Jeffrey Epstein. He doesn't say, nobody in prison talked to you about being a pedophile. He doesn't call him out. He's trying to be polite to him, it seems. It's absolutely mind-blowing. And there's something like 19 other hours of tape that have yet to been released that Steve Bannon says that he's keeping because he was some sort of double secret agent and was going to really try to blow Jeffrey Epstein up. Well, Roger Stone and many others in the MAGA universe think that that's a crock, and if Steve Bannon is going to be out there trying to defend himself, he better get out there quickly because the narrative does not look good for Steve Bannon at this point. It looks like
he done already said he know he going to prison
defending a sex offender.
How do you think the president will react to all of this?
Listen, so Steve Bannon got a pardon at one point in time along the route here. We know
there needs to be a one pardon minimum.
I am, from what I hear,
there needs to be a one pardon minimum. If you get one, you can't get another. That means you're a career criminal.
In lieu of these revelations, and I can't imagine that the 25th Amendment revelation inures him to the president any more than he's far away, getting further, and I know that this most recent revelation is going to push that boat even further away from this administration.
Yeah, again, we'll have to see if the president is asked in any detail about this, but that comment about the 25th Amendment was 2018. It's hard to imagine what was going through Bannon's head at that point. David Urban, thank you for explaining the discussions that are taking place.
Not going away, John, not going away.
Doesn't appear to be. David Urban, thank you.
A new twist in the Epstein files is playing out as we speak. Les Wexner, the billionaire former owner of Victoria's Secret, is giving congressional testimony at Deposition in Ohio. about his connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Just a short time ago, Wexner told lawmakers, quote, "I was conned, I have done nothing wrong, and I have nothing to hide." Wexner went on to say that Epstein stole hundreds of millions of dollars from his family. The 88-year-old has been connected to Jeffrey Epstein as far back as the 1980s and says he cut off communications with Epstein in 2007.
So Epstein stole.
Says he cut off communications with Epstein in 2007. And connected to Jeffrey Epstein as far back as the 1980s and says he cut off communications with Epstein in 2007. I'm going to go straight to CNN's Kara Stenell. Kara, you've been doing some terrific reporting on Wexner.
So now he's stealing.
Separate and apart from what's happening in this deposition. What can you tell us?
Well, Dan, I mean, the Republicans and the Democrats want to know from Wexner what his relationship was with Jeffrey Epstein, particularly as it relates to the money. And at CNN, we have reviewed the Epstein files and have found records that show that Wexner's attorneys told investigators in 2019 that they believe that Wexner had initially gotten together with Epstein in the 1980s when he was recommended by other sophisticated financiers, and that Epstein had managed his money then until there was that initial state investigation in Florida into Jeffrey Epstein. And it was at that point that Epstein had turned the reins of the business or his personal financials back over to Wexner.
Thank you.
Wexner's lawyers told investigators then that they had, Wexner's wife had then taken over control of the finances and discovered that Epstein had stolen hundreds of millions of dollars from them. That is something that is of interest here, and it was from that point
she
that
didn't know he gave it to him because that was his booty buddy.
Lawmakers who, from the House Oversight Committee, who are sitting with Wexner today, have said that they want to follow the money because it was the money that gave Epstein the ability to know the rich and powerful and his entree into that whole world. One of the members who actually travels to Ohio, Representative Robert Garcia, was on CNN this morning, and here's what he said he wanted to learn
He
today.
lived in the house with them.
Most important information for us is really about the money. We know that Wexner was Jeffrey Epstein's single largest benefactor. Wexner, of course, is incredibly wealthy, a billionaire. Obviously very well known, not just in Ohio, but across the country. And when you think about Epstein's wealth, whether it was the plane, the island, the amount of money he had, his homes, much of that came directly from Wexner. And we're not exactly sure why. It's not clear. While Wexner has said that Epstein was a money manager, the amount of wealth, the amount of money that was transferred over is so large that we have significant questions.
Now, Wexner has said that he cut off ties with Epstein, and our review of the Epstein files does not show that there was any continued communication between them. That's something we've seen with some other powerful people who said that they stopped communicating with Epstein. That turned out not to be reflected in the records, showed that the communications did continue. That doesn't appear to be the case
They just
with Wexner.
deflected.
He's been fairly consistent, so we'll see
You
if we
should
hear
have never gave him access to your accounts.
from the lawmakers today and how what he told them informs their opinion and how they view that this will help their investigation going forward. Dana?
Hold on, I need to go over here before I forget. Because I'm steady seeing stuff. I want to,
think about that.
Epstein was a CIA Mossad asset that was recruited and was doing a blackmail operation. I think that's crystal clear. No question about it. So
tends to be the party guy, just like Diddy.
Drugs,
cameras, drugs.
The CIA, as part of MKO, had Operation Climax, where they would lure Johns in with drugs and prostitutes, and then this drunk CIA schmuck would sit on the opposite of a two-way mirror and take notes on what, just evil, wicked stuff. And that's what they're using Epstein for, was blackmail operations. And they got some pretty high-level people snared into that, and they haven't released the entire list of close Epstein confidants, but Israel's former prime minister was one of them.
Barack?
Yes, they got a picture of him visiting Epstein at his New York apartment, and he was well connected to Epstein, but that was all in secret. That is the intelligence part of Mossad. And of course, they couldn't do that without coordinating with the CIA.
I ask this question now. The more I learn, there just always seems to be this connection between the CIA and the Mossad. And I'm going, is it just
no?
They're the same organization. I think the more you look back into history, and it's always somehow the CIA and the Mossad is there on the day that JFK gets shot. We learn about like MLK. We learn about 9/11, and then we're just going, okay, why does it seem like there's a union here, a marriage here?
Mossad is like the sister of the CIA. They're joined at the hip, kind of like Siamese twins, and they use each other for intel and operations and things like that. They are extremely close and in an extremely sensitive relationship. Oh, yeah.
And it totally explains what Epstein was doing. And also Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, when he died, and didn't he die rather mysteriously? I'm not sure.
Yeah, he fell off. He found dead off his yacht, floating in the water. They claimed it was a heart attack.
Of course.
Just when he was coming under scrutiny for arms dealing and connections with the CIA and being a Mossad agent, actually a double agent with Mossad and KGB. All of a sudden, he's found dead floating next to his yacht, and
happens all the time.
Oh yeah, it's just just one of those things. See what
a ton of Mossad agents and I think a former prime minister of Israel attended his funeral. So it's like, guys, hey, maybe
it's like
Elaine.
It's very difficult.
Like they did.
They find out the hard way to cover up the
Charlie.
truth, 'cause it's going to leak out, somewhere.
Okay, guys, so there is something that has been living in my head rent-free that I feel like I need to open up to the internet about. I feel like TikTokers can help me with this a little bit. Somebody told me that when you're doing an investigation, it's really good to go back to the beginning and you'll start to recognize things and see things in a new light that don't...
Come on, I was supposed to play this yesterday. Y'all, my lights ain't going up.
Okay, guys, so there is something that has been living in my head rent-free that I feel like I need to open up to the internet about. I feel like TikTokers can help me with this a little bit. Somebody told me that when you're doing an investigation, it's really good to go back to the beginning and you'll start to recognize things and see things in a new light that don't really make sense. And so I did that with this Charlie Kirk investigation. In the craziness of the aftermath of Charlie's assassination, we were told that there were witches who had put a spell on Charlie Kirk, and they had, been contacted by a journalist, and then those witches put a spell on him. The journalist published the article on the 8th. Charlie somehow saw it very quickly on the 9th. A priest came over to pray over him, and by the 10th, he was dead. You remember this? So I decided to revisit that and was kind of shocked to learn that journalist was brand spanking new. Like, she had started writing for the first time in May of that year, and just a couple of months later she decides to head to Etsy, and of all people to cast a spell on and to try a witch's spell, she chooses Charlie Kirk. I don't know, all that just felt a little bit random to me.
Why is she putting a spell on
witches
Charlie?
Themselves, okay? Turns out the witch's Etsy page was also new because in the immediate aftermath, Charlie dies on the 10th, Etsy moved to suspend their witch's account, but I went onto Wayback Machine, and they had been on Etsy for just under a month, and suddenly someone bought a spell from them, and Charlie Kirk was dead. Take a look at their Etsy page that I dug up because it's going to get a little bit weirder. These Strix sisters did not even have a website, by the way. Like, I'm talking brand new, nobody knew who they were, and they filed for their website, purchased the domain name on September 12th. This is before Etsy suspended their account. They get their website up and going, and it's ready on the 15th. Take a look. And you can do this yourself on Wayback, and you can see that when I say they built this website quickly, like, you could buy stuff and buy spells and curses on their website. So
buy
a little
spells
deeper into the witches themselves, okay? Turns out the witch's
They selling
Etsy
voodoo
page was also
online.
new because in the immediate
Lord.
aftermath, Charlie dies on the 10th. Etsy moved to suspend their witch's account, but I went onto Wayback Machine, and yeah, they had been on Etsy for just under a month, and suddenly someone bought a spell from them, and Charlie Kirk was dead. Take a look at their Etsy page that I dug up, because it's going to get a little bit weirder. These Strix sisters did not even have a website, by the way. Like, I'm talking brand new, nobody knew who they were, and they filed for their website, purchased the domain name on September 12th. This is before Etsy suspended their account. They get their website up and going, and it's ready on the 15th. Take a look. And you can do this yourself on Wayback, and you can see that when I say they built this website quickly, like, you could buy stuff and buy spells and curses on their website. So suddenly they're very internet savvy, and no one knows who these girls are. But apparently they also had access to the press, because they published an article on September 26th in the Daily Mail. We are the witches. I am the witch that cursed Charlie Kirk. Who did they reach out to? How did the journalists know that this was not a hoax? Did they use their real names? I'll show you this article. We are told in the article that a
Thank you, Beverly. Hey, Beverly Goodwin. Thank you for the torch.
There are no names used for these individuals anywhere, so I'm just curious how the Daily Mail writer, Nick Allen, and also there was a writer for the Mirror UK, felt confident that they were actually speaking to the individuals who allegedly cursed Charlie Kirk. Did they give them their real names? Can somebody in the chat find their real names? Because I don't know, I'm just thinking that this is another individual that I'd probably like to speak to understand how all of this came together. It just seems very, very strange to me. Am I technically asking the internet to go on a witch hunt? Yeah. I want the names of these priestesses, their real names.
A whole witch hunt. Hey,
I think that's fair.
your
That's
design.
a fair ask. I have a feeling this might be another piece of the puzzle. Who put the quote-unquote spell on Charlie Kirk that he was so concerned about the night before, which I call BS on. There were a lot of crazy people who wrote articles about us. Charlie losing sleep over a priestess who didn't exist a month ago seems a little extra to me. Anyways, if you find anything, email us at moretips@CandaceOwens.com. Thanks.
Wow. Is that not a wow? Now it's a witch. Witch sisters. All of this is just cray. It can't get no more crazier. All because y'all couldn't leave kids alone. All because y'all wanted to control the world and do nasty things and eat minors and adults. And I showed last night or early this morning when I was up, Ellen DeGeneres crying, slinging snot. She's sorry because she got caught being a people eater. Ugh, these people are crazy. Lord, I ain't, ooh. All I know is you shouldn't ever play with the devil. Don't play with the devil. He'll have you eating people, drinking blood, boo-booing on yourself, all type of crazy shit. Hold on. They try. What time is it? So they trying to limit his pardoning power. And then from there, I'm going to go to what's going on in the house. Woo! What's going on in the house? Hi, Brandon. Don't play with magic. Surprise is a price. You ain't never lying. I don't play with none of that stuff.
Not sure if you saw the news, but Fox News is claiming President Trump is declining in the polls.
Ouija
President Trump
boards,
responded and says
Democrats have decided to fight back
cards.
against Donald Trump's abuse of the presidential pardon power by introducing, or at least currently crafting, I guess would be the better way to say that, a constitutional amendment that
Y'all
would
need
actually give Congress the ability to override a presidential pardon.
They need that.
The legislation, amendment, whatever you want to call it, was in fact introduced by Democratic sponsor Representative Johnny Olszewski from Maryland in December. And the bill would allow for a minimum of 20 House members and 5 senators to call for congressional review of a pardon, which would lead to a 60-day deadline for Congress to nullify that pardon with a 2/3 majority vote, which of course is what they also need to override a presidential veto, so not deviating from the norm too much. You got to have members of the House, you got to have members of the Senate. You've got 60 days. You get a vote. If you can get 2/3, so you've got to have bipartisan support to do it, you can nullify a presidential pardon, and boom, that person's going back to jail.
They need
I like
that.
this. Now, I would prefer an amendment to get rid of the president's ability to give pardons at this point, but this is actually really great. This is a good amendment. It is very well written. Representative Olszewski here knocked it out of the park. Phenomenal. But that's just the beginning of the story. Because you would think, obviously, okay, this doesn't have any chance of passing. Republicans still control the House. It's not going to work. But this thing is starting to gather bipartisan support. Republican Representative Don Bacon from Nebraska announced this week that he was going to join on as a co-sponsor of the legislation. So this is no longer just solely a Democratic move. It has
Everybody
at least one
is on
Republican
that
saying, not only will I
documents
support it,
deserve
I'll put my name on it. That's a big step. Now, Bacon, of course, has been an adversary to Donald Trump, so it's not surprising. But Bacon did say this. Frankly, it is clear to me that the pardon authority has been abused. I'm pleased to co-sponsor
Absolutely.
Representative Olszewski's Pardon Integrity Act, a constitutional amendment that establishes a narrow, common-sense guardrail that preserves the pardon power while ensuring Congress can fulfill its constitutional role to provide accountability and uphold the rule of law. Good statement. I like it. But something has to be done about the pardon power. And if the Democrats are not able to get this thing passed, if they do not get enough bipartisan support, which, if we're talking constitutional amendments, that's a higher threshold, don't worry. There's a little thing coming up towards the end of this year, November, early there. I think it's actually the second Tuesday, or the first Tuesday after the first Monday of November, called a midterm election. And if the polls are to be believed, which take them with a grain of salt, but if history is to be believed, Democrats are poised to make some pretty big gains, both the House and Senate, after November's elections. So, if this amendment does not, gain traction right now, when the Democrats take over, if the Democrats take over, then we can probably get this thing rolling here. Roll back Trump's pardon power. Now, granted, the timeline on this, the 60-day review, we're not going to be able to undo any pardon he has already done, unfortunately. But we can prevent more of them and hopefully prevent abuse of this system in the future. So, good job, Representative Olszewski. Or Olszewski, sorry, my apologies. I know I'm probably mispronouncing that name, but amazing work, and I hope this thing becomes a real change to the Constitution. Thanks for watching, and if you are not already subscribed to the channel, please do so, and do not forget to like and comment and share widely among your friends.
Okay, so last one.
This is the bariatric gelatin
Last one,
bedtime
hold
recipe
on.
that took me from 198 to 147. It's natural.
What's going on in the house?
He had been going on
Hold on. I looked at the smile on his face. He cheesing. Is he finna go in, y'all? Y'all hit the like button. Mike, he finna go in, baby. Hit the like button.
Melania Trump, the First Lady of the United States, doesn't live with her husband. She has her own apartment that she's owned since 2016 inside of Trump Tower, New York,
Oh, so she
without her
been out.
husband, Donald Trump's name on it. And journalist Michael Wolff intends to prove that she's a New York resident who does not live with her husband, doesn't cohabitate in Florida at Mar-a-Lago, or certainly not in the White House.
Also,
All
she
because
in New York.
this giant
I don't know.
doesn't cohabitate
I don't
in
know why
Florida.
she messed with
And
Michael
journalist
Wolff.
Michael Wolff intends to prove that she's a New York resident who does not live with her husband, doesn't cohabitate in Florida at Mar-a-Lago, or certainly not in the White House. All because this giant can of worms has been opened by one Melania Trump in her suit with Michael Wolff over trying to get Michael Wolff to pay her billions of dollars on false allegations of defamation, where he reported properly that she was involved in a social life with Donald Trump that involved Jeffrey Epstein. I'm Michael Popak. I'm traveling today. You're on Legal AF. Let's get to the story of how stupid is Melania and her lawyers
Thank you,
to
Peter.
allow her to be subjected to discovery and to exploration of the issue of her marriage and where she really lives in a lawsuit. Let's get to it now.
Melania been in New
Michael
York
Wolff
way
sued
before.
first because he received a
No, they
$1
was staying
billion
together.
demand
They
letter
said
from Melania
2016.
Trump's lawyers down in Florida that said that he had been going on podcasts in different places and making representations about Melania Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, and Donald Trump. And that they claimed that those were defamatory. They listed them in the letter. They wanted an apology. They wanted $1 billion.
Oh yeah, she needs
or
to
they
go
would
on
sue
back
for
over to
defamation.
where
He
she
sued
came
first
from.
for a declaratory judgment, a declaration by a judge in New
Told
York
y'all he
State
stink.
Supreme Court.
She ain't want to
that
have
none of
to
what
be
he
in no
did
bed with him
is
and he
defamatory.
funky.
It's all true,
Shit all
or
in
he
her
has
sheets.
proper privileges that come with being a journalist under the First Amendment. Melania didn't like that it was filed against her in New York. So she filed a motion to remove, or a piece of paper to remove that case to federal court in New York. First step in a two-step process to try to get the case down to Florida, maybe with Judge Aileen Cannon, and get it dismissed. First stop is trying to get it to federal court. Now you have the right, if you are not if the case allows for federal court jurisdiction to be asserted, in this case because two people live in different states. She's claiming she lives in Florida at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, and Michael Wolff lives in New York. You are allowed that if the amount in controversy is a certain amount and the parties are completely diverse in terms of where they live and they reside, you have the right to take it into federal court. We call that diversity jurisdiction. The other way to get to federal court is if you have a federal statute or constitutional issue, you can also get to federal court first. So she files the paper, notice of removal. It transfers the case immediately to federal court, subject to a federal judge deciding whether it's appropriate for the case to remain there. The judge, Judge Vocasil, she happens to be a Trump-appointed judge. There's very few of them in New York, in the Southern District, but, Vocasil is one of them. So you've got Vocasil. Now the parties start arguing over where Melania lives. It's an open question. It's fair game because she has asserted in filings through her lawyer, although not under oath yet, that she lives in Florida. And they claim she's got a driver's license in Florida. She votes in Florida. She intends to have Florida be her residency. We're done, right, Judge? Not exactly. Because the case law says that if the other side has put together competent, colorable claims that the person does not live where they say they lives, then you have to have what's called limited discovery on the issue of residency to determine it. Now the can of worms is opened. And in particular, Michael Wolff has been very public that he is going to find out and reveal, and he knows where she lives, and he's going to reveal it in this discovery. Well, he did it a little bit early in the Inside the Trump podcast, and here's Michael Wolff saying what we all know to be true. Anybody that spent any time in New York knows that she lives in New York, but there's more facts about the fact that she owns her own apartment in Trump Tower that I'd never heard about before, and so Michael Wolff's lawyers sussed it out. Here's Michael Wolff about outing Melania Trump and her residency, and therefore her relationship and the type of relationship she has with Donald Trump. One where they don't share a house, let alone a bedroom.
You told her to back that thing up.
This is what would happen to your body if you ate root sleep
better
gummies
watch who you
every
playing
day.
with.
Day 1, you take your first gummy at bedtime. Maybe expect...
Hey, say that shit. Thank you for the bronze medal, say that shit.
Having to justify where actually the First Lady or the theoretical First Lady lives. So somebody in the White House, I cannot believe somebody in the legal hierarchy is not going to catch hell for this, because this is actually, this is the question of the day in this lawsuit. Where does she live? They are either going to have to prove that they live in Florida, or accept the fact that she lives in New York. And this is a kind of a message to the country and to history itself. The First Lady does not live with the President of the United States. Their relationship is remote at best, and I think we can probably say well, certainly of a different nature than any president and first lady has ever had. Not to mention that to our point, the nature of this is that she lives in New York and he lives somewhere else.
The biggest shock for me was not just that she lives in New York, but she's got her own apartment in Trump Tower. And I think that's something that has been rumored and talked about, but you've nailed it down here.
No, it's funny because I had this has always been a kind of discussion in the in the Trump circle, the hers nature of where they live in, or where they have resided in for many years in Trump Tower.
Now, let me turn to what just a few days ago, the lawyer for Melania filed his declaration. That's how we do it in New York State practice in federal court. David Korzenik files, and here's what he says about Melania Trump and her ties to New York. Again, they're trying to demonstrate that she lives in New York. And here was a new fact I'd never heard of before. She owns her own apartment in Trump Tower, not the penthouse on the 66th floor of the triplex that we know from the fraud case, but she has her own apartment. Isn't that interesting? For years there's been allegations that she stepped outside the marriage and was dating somebody that worked at Tiffany's next door. We'll leave that for another time. Here's what they say in their filing. Mrs. Trump, first they remind everybody that she came here as an immigrant, which I love this gratuitous comment here on paragraph 2. New York has been continuous, systemic, and central to Melania Trump's life since she arrived in New York on a B1, B2 visa on August 27th, 1996. It's almost like a warning shot that we're going to get into her visa status in public records. Then they go on to go through his New York connections. Paragraph 5, she owns her own separate apartment at Trump Tower. It's unit 33H. I'm not outing her. This is in the filing. She owns it through a limited liability company called 721 33H Holdings LLC. The address for Trump Tower, 721, 725 Fifth Avenue. 33H is the unit. It's active. It's authorized in New York. She bought it in 2016, and she continues to own it.
The short you made.
She also, according to paragraph 7 of the filing, lives in and uses the 66th floor penthouse apartment that both Mr. and Mrs. Trump and the family use. So she's got 66th
Several
floor
years
and
ago,
she's got
they
33rd floor.
designated the
Then they go to the
Mar-a-Lago business
Melania
instead of private
documentary
home. Yep.
where she's shown, not at
The shirt you
Mar-a-Lago,
made
but
had
she's
me
shown in the
dying.
Trump Tower
She
penthouse,
don't want to
seated
play
at the
no more.
large gilded desk in the 66th floor penthouse in her Trump
She don't want
Tower
to play no
living room,
more.
not at Mar-a-Lago. The doorman at Trump Tower confirmed that Mrs. Trump did indeed live there, but he wouldn't accept service. Then they turned to Barron. Barron goes to my alma mater, NYU. Barron Trump has his own apartment in Trump Tower. Maybe it's 33H, I don't know. But he's an undergraduate at NYU. She's been clearly public about making him a priority in her life. And this is especially so where Mr. Trump is more occupied elsewhere with other matters. I love that line. Can we just stop there for a minute? Paragraph 11. She's focusing on Barron because Donald is, quote, more occupied elsewhere with other matters. Such a great phrase that captures so much. Talks about Barron, talks about Mrs. Trump's father, Victor Candace, lives in an apartment in New York City, probably in the Trump Tower. Okay? Her sister lives in New York City on the Upper East Side. Her family members do. Her publisher of the book Melania is in New York. Then it goes through the representative group of people in her life, all based in New York. Hervé Pierre, her stylist and fashion designer, who worked with her and is shown in the Melania Trump movie. Okay? Karen Pasternak, one of her personal assistants, is employed by the Trump Organization in New York. Erica Mastro, her other personal assistant, lives in New York. Mordecai Alkov at we get to know where Melania does her hair. Yarok Hair is based in New York. So her hairstylist is in New York. Her makeup artist is in New York. Her event planner is in New York. Her interior decorator is in New York and was also in the Melania Trump documentary.
It's a wrap. She live in New York. Don't be trying to get him moved to Florida now. Don't that property ain't that owned by
her immigration lawyer. This is interesting.
The state.
Her immigration lawyer, who also handled her parents' immigration, Michael Wildis, lives in New York. Warren Tricomi, her manicurist, lives in New York. Larry Rosenthal, her dentist, is in New York. Her doctors are in New York. Her financial advisors are in New York. On Twitter, she declared in 2024, New York City has captivated my heart from the moment I have arrived. And in her speech at Madison Square Garden, she spoke glowingly about her hometown. Good evening, New York City. Hello, Madison Square Garden, our hometown.
Nope, they was offering people money to go watch that thing.
In fact, let's play the clip.
Are you over the age of 50? Thinking about life insurance, but worried about pre-existing conditions, medical exams, or blood tests? You're not alone. But I've got great news.
Good evening, New York City. Hello, Madison Square Garden.
Madison Garden. Hello.
Our hometown, where architecture,
my hometown.
Strength,
goodbye.
Courage and unity create a canvas for the world's undisputed capital of industry.
So which one
These are her words and from her documentary. So pages and
hometown.
pages of information. And that everything about Florida is just an artifice so she can attempt to avoid service and that so she can
I don't know why she rumbled with
I mean, they go
Michael
into
Wood.
her first lady position.
He been dying to tell the
We're
story.
really getting here down and dirty.
He been
On
dying
20 on page 9
to tell
of
the
filing.
story.
It says Mrs. Trump might spend time in D.C., overseas, Bedminster, or Mar-a-Lago, only speaks to her activities as First Lady or to her maintaining appearances as Trump as a candidate.
That's an
In
agreement.
other words, she's all over the place. It's more a function of her being a First Lady. Her real home is New York, and so on. And I love the fact that they use the Melania affidavit, a documentary, to prove the case. So what's going to happen next is we're going to have Judge Vocasil have to decide whether limited discovery is given to the Michael Wolff side to get into where Melania lives. Why does she have a second home in New York? Why does she have an apartment in New York? And she'll have to now, because the burden is on her to prove her citizenship is outside of New York to allow for removal to federal court. This is all just another artifice to try to get the case brought down to Florida so that it gets assigned to the Southern District of Florida near Mar-a-Lago and maybe ends up with Judge
She
Aileen
should have left
Cannon,
him
Donald
alone.
Trump's
She
favorite
shouldn't have been
judge.
faking the
We'll
funk like
continue
she
to
was
follow
going
it
to
all
sue
right
him.
here. As you know, I'm in a hotel room. I'm traveling. Later today, I'm going to be conducting interviews with 13 Democratic attorneys general, including Letitia James of New York, Rob Bonta of California, Keith
Okay, good
Ellison
people.
of Minnesota, and
Okay, I'll be back later. Is there anything else? Let me see. Let me double check. I think I had one, but y'all came at the last minute trying to hit the like button. Trying to act like y'all had a little bit of sense at the very end. Why you gotta be like that? 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 Huh? You did, Peter? Yeah, why y'all gotta wait till the end where I'm ready to go? I done been here too long. I need to eat my lunch. I'll be back. I wanted to, hold on, play that part with our girl Candace. I'm gonna try to come back with something on her. Hold on. Well, they don't put a name on. I can't remember what else I had seen. I be seeing so much. I be all over the place. Up all late, can't sleep. Ooh, Lord Jesus be a fence. Jesus be a fence. All around me. Every day. Jesus be a fence. Jesus be a fence. Jesus be a fence. Former CIA. This is what we're going to end on. And I'll be back later, y'all. Okay?
But now we're going to go back in time, and I'm going to ask you who you think did each of these huge events, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The killing of MLK Jr.
That was a CIA operation because they considered him a dangerous communist. And both the FBI was bugging in churches where he was giving some of his speeches in churches. They were bugging the podiums and following him around. He was a top target for elimination.
JFK.
I think that was a CIA hit. And
You think did each of these huge events, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The killing of MLK Jr.
That was a CIA operation because they considered him a dangerous communist. And both the FBI was bugging in churches where he was giving some of his speeches in churches. They were bugging the podiums and following him around.
Bugging the podiums.
Top target for elimination.
JFK.
I think that was a CIA hit, and they may have employed some mafia connections to carry it out because that was their mafia assassination
Exactly.
program.
LBJ was very involved in all that in Dallas. And so
He was an evil man.
He was an evil man. Okay, what about Pearl Harbor?
They knew the attack was coming. They knew where it was going to happen in Pearl Harbor and when. And they told no one, and they let it happen on purpose. That's from the commander of the Pacific Fleet. I would say that's a pretty credible witness. So yeah, that was a false flag.
They admitted that. They admitted they heard it was going to happen, and you know how else were you going to get Americans to be on the side of this war that had nothing to do with us? Which brings us to 9/11. Your opinion?
My opinion, as a criminal investigator, as a former CI officer, 9/11 was not the act of a bunch of poorly flight-trained terrorists that executed an unbelievably meticulous piloting of those aircraft. Even pilots, there's pilots for 9/11 Truth now, and they say we could not have done that. Experienced pilots could not have made those maneuvers. Not possible. And then we go to the passport issue, and we go to the Tower 7, which was a controlled demolition.
Obviously.
You talk to any structural engineer, and I have. Well, that was a controlled demolition. I mean, it was perfect. And the fact, I think George W. Bush blacked out, I think it was 40 pages of the 9/11 report dealing with Saudi Arabia.
40 pages.
And the report came out, the 9/11 Commission report came out, but those pages were blacked out and he refused to unredact them. So what, wait a minute, this report was supposed to be for the American people on what happened, and you blacked all these pages out? What in the world? I do not think that it was a bunch of poorly trained or untrained terrorists that did it. I think there was another source behind it. I think it was intentional. And I'm going just from a criminal investigative perspective, just looking at the evidence, what evidence we have, that was an intentional act. And it would fall right into the MO that you and I are talking about. Horrible event, because the human life does not matter to the shadow government deep state, or especially the CIA. It does not matter. They're pawns on their chessboard. They don't care that 3,000 people were horribly killed that day, but it achieved the aim of gutting the U.S. Constitution, bringing in the horrific Patriot Act, giving the CIA unthinkable authority for secret prisons and torture beyond waterboarding and secret renditions and all of that. The FBI, the ability to spy on Americans came out of the Patriot Act. So it was the perfect national security state energizer that the Patriot Act was, and 70 of the congressmen and senators that read the Patriot Act didn't even read it. They just signed off on it without even reading the bill. So, yeah. I mean, that's my view.
Oh, wow.
Now we're
Okay.
going to go back in time, and I'm going to ask you.
Okay, yeah. I'll be back later on. Please double check your bell. Make sure the top bell, I don't know what's going on. So just double check your bell. Make sure your notification is on. Please like, share, and subscribe. Get you a membership. Let me say it again. Get you a membership. Probably, what time is it? 3:30. Probably 7:30. I need to get some real good sleep tonight. Probably 7:30. Keep it moving. The tea. Miss Tom, probably about 7:30. And I need to go run to the store. I need some honey and some stuff I need. And I need to eat. Okay? So probably around 7:30. Be there. I need for somebody to make this my gems even. So before I go, can I get some gems on this last go? I hate them sixes and them odd numbers. Can somebody send me some gems on their way out, please? Pretty please. Mimi, hey. Bye, Joe. Thank you, Janet. Thank you. I so greatly appreciate it. Wee. Wee. Did you try? Have you tried the Uncle Bud's? I'm wondering. Yeah, you wouldn't know how it feels and if it works. Thank you for the flowers. Thank you. Okay, y'all, I'll be back around 7:30. Oh, thank you, Georgia Peach Session. Thank you for the bronze medal. Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. 7:30. Do I need to put it in there? Because I thought I said it. Thank you. Hold on. Let me put it. Out 7:30. Have a great afternoon. You too. Back at 7:30. Okie dokie. I will set a I'll set it up. Peace out.